Roger, go for deploy.
Like, I have no desire. I'm not going to win the CrossFit Games. I'll tell you that right now. I would probably never win it because I don't have that pressing desire to win it. I just want to enjoy the opportunity that I have to represent myself, my gym, my country, and all my fans and followers, I guess, if you will, like on the world stage, doing something I love.
Alrighty, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Adventure Fit Radio. This week, what we have is Khan Porter. So this is the last flashback episode we'll do. We've basically given ourselves a little bit of a break in between seasons. We're 170 odd shows in now and going strong, although there are some changes. Tommy's moving to Indonesia for a sustained amount of time. So the podcast will carry on. Tommy and I will record probably 8 shows before he leaves. And we'll filter them out across a year while Tommy's away. And in the meantime, we're going to have a bunch of co-hosts that are going to come and jump on and help me, which is really sad because we won't have Tommy's tributes every week. And probably the only reason it's sad. It'll be super sad. Me and Tommy grew this thing. Obviously, Mac was very early days with us, but me and Tommy grew this thing as a duo, really. He's nearly every bit as much Adventure Radio as I am. If I'm 51%, he's the 49. So it's a real shame for him to duck out, but he's doing his life, and that's that. And he's stoked with what he's got set up. So I'm really happy for him. So this show, guys, is our last flashback show before we get into some new shows and a new season and a new format with Adventure Fit Radio. So this is with Khan Porter. Just a great chat about the life of, a young guy in the fitness industry, big social profile, dealt with some mental health stuff in his past, and just a real honest chat. So this is a good one, guys. Before we get into it, go ahead and check out trueprotein.com.au. True Protein are a partner of us at Adventure Fit, and they're our supplement partner, and they're awesome. So to be perfectly honest, me and Tommy have been using True Protein for longer than we've been partnered with them. If Adventure were to partner with anyone in the Australian supplement sphere, then it would be True Protein. So the guys are kind enough to offer 10% off to all of our listeners. So 10% off if you use the code ADVF at trueprotein.com.au. Guys, they've got all your kinds of proteins that you could ever imagine, all your kind of mass gainers, all your kinds of aminos and creatines, all your type of carbohydrates, protein snacks, superfood powders, tea, coffee, oils, and other add-ons. They've got everything. So check them out, trueprotein.com.au. Also, guys, head to www.adventurefittravel.com and you can use the code RADIO there for 10% off. So what we've got coming up in the next 12 months, guys, we have Vietnam, which by the time this show is released will nearly be running, and there is no spots left on that trip. We will have South Africa in September, so last chance to get in over the next few weeks and get your spot on our South Africa trip. We're going on safari. We'll go to a Big 5 safari park, which is going to be sick. The rest of the time we'll be based in Cape Town. We're climbing Table Mountain, diving with sharks, abseiling down Table Mountain, wine tasting in the Stellenbosch region. Cape Town's my favourite city on the planet. I've been to 40 countries. I've been to even more cities, obviously. It's my all-time favourite. So is Cape Town as my all-time favourite country as well. Equal with Mexico, which is coming up in Feb. We've also got Iceland in November. We've got Thailand, Bali, and that's probably it for the next 12 months. So if you've missed out on this Vietnam trip and you want to get in there, our next Vietnam trip will be released very, very soon. But yeah, that's it, guys. So head to www.adventurefittravel.com and check out everything we have. And if you want to jump on board, use the code RADIO for 10% off at checkout. Here's the show. Alrighty. Well, we may as well just start us off now, Tommy. Let's hit it up with Tommy's tribute.
Beautiful.
Serenade me.
Serenade, I certainly will. So for everyone at home, I've chosen single ladies because we all know the famous Instagram video that you put up, mate. Geez, that got a lot of love, didn't it?
It did, hey.
Yeah.
I posted it and then flew overseas, and the next day it was a little bit gangbusters.
Yeah,
eh?
that's right. Alrighty, so here we go. It's a one chord song. My singing is atrocious, by the way, mate.
That's all right. This is the first time a man has sat opposite me on a couch and sung to me.
Right.
So
all right, here we go. All the single ladies, all the single ladies, all the single ladies. Now put your hands up. Walking to the gym, doing your own thing. We're speaking to your man today. He's got all the tats, he's got all the abs. I bet you're happy he isn't gay. Wanna know how he trains and how he maintains a fitness level like he does? Cause he's back at the games to reignite the flames, forgetting fucking tons of girls' names. Cause if you want him, then you should give him a like on the gram. Even though I'm not really sure he is a single man. But it doesn't really matter, do the best you can. If you're a single lady, you really should be getting the tan. To get with Con. Welcome to the show.
I am absolutely chuffed with that, gentlemen. That's the first time anyone has, that I'm aware of, written a song about me, and that was unreal, fellas. Really good stuff.
Welcome, mate. Bet you happy he isn't gay for all the single ladies out there.
Allegedly, I heard he was.
Yeah.
That was one of your better ones.
Confirmed.
I know. As I said, man, I was half pissed when I wrote it.
I can't remember who showed me. Jen, this chick was on one of our Adventure Fit trips, said there's some really cute CrossFitters in Australia, but it's a shame that they're gay. And I said, what do you mean, Jen? And she goes, oh, what's his name? He went to the CrossFit Games. Khan someone. I'm like, I don't know if Khan Porter's gay. She goes, no, he is. Look, he is. And she showed me a photo of you and your mates in your budgie smugglers, all hugging, embracing. Yeah. I'm like, nah, I think that's a piss take, Jen, but who knows?
Really masculine dudes in Australia do that.
Yeah, no, I think I like to leave it a little ambiguous. I'm not gay, but at the same time, I think someone posted on Twitter last year words to that effect, like, super upset that Khan Porter is gay or something like that. And I remember writing back, I was like, I'm actually not, but I make no apologies for leading that impression on. Like, if anything, that's a compliment. Thank you.
That's right.
And then all these people were just like, that's great. It's a great idea. It's sort of like mentality to have.
Operation Make Khan Gay.
I don't know how successful they're going to be. I'm actually very straight.
That's right.
Very straight. We'll definitely go into that later. Yeah. So, Khan, thanks for coming on the show. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your history? Tell us about Khan Porter.
It's a very broad question. My history. I guess I got into CrossFit about 4 years ago. I was working full-time as a journo in my final year of university, studying comms with a major in journalism. And I would always play different sports, I guess, from the time I was a kid. My parents used to make me play sport growing up. And I was just training to keep fit and healthy. And then I saw CrossFit. I was introduced to it at a Globo gym and kind of saw it as a means of, I guess, competing with myself and with all these people all over the world that were posting these scores from these workouts. And it really appealed to my competitive nature. And I figured, it's something that I can just do recreationally and get as good as I want to get at it. And as long as I'm getting better and better and better, then that's kind of cool. And then I saw the CrossFit Games. Pardon me, I'm probably going to burp if it was a bad idea to drink a beer while we were doing this. And then I kind of saw the games in that and thought, I wouldn't mind giving this a go. So I found myself in a full-time job with a disposable income for the first sort of time in my life, and a gym opened up near the home. Walked in and pretty much just was like, yeah, sweet, I'm going to go to, hey, I want to do CrossFit. I want to do CrossFit Games and probably start with regionals. And I remember obviously as you do the gym was just okay, we'll see how you go. But I think a couple of weeks in, I had a 220 Fran done and dusted. So once I learned how to do butterfly pull-ups properly, and I kind of picked everything up pretty quick. Yeah. And I'm just that kind of competitive person where if I want to win something, that's kind of it. I have to, and if I don't, I will beat myself up over it, and to the point where I figure out what did I do wrong and how can I make myself better in that way and fix that. And and then I don't know, I've been working full time writing, and then I had a contract, and that contract finished up And I found myself sort of immersed in the coaching world and came to a realization that I really loved, I guess, more than anything, I guess, the community aspect of CrossFit, that it built this entire kind of, this like group of people with all sort of similar interests. And it became such a huge part of the people's lives who did it to the extent that I was doing it. And that led me to set up this gym sort of a week before I made regionals for the first time. And then I think we were talking about it earlier, made regionals and placed 10th, sort of almost sort of 7-8 months into CrossFit. I thought, okay, if I really knuckle down with this, I can potentially have a decent crack at it. And yeah, the next year qualified for the games, and that kind of changed the scope of what I was doing with running my own facility, and sort of shifted focus more towards, I guess, an athletic career, if you'll call it that, within the CrossFit space, which has kind of come full circle now to the point where I am, I guess, now looking for what's sort of beyond the athletic side of things. See you later, lads. And sort of exploring all those sorts of things, cool. At this point in time.
Cool. So we'll take it back right to the start. I mentioned, I heard you mention that your parents made you play sport.
Yeah.
Were you a sporty kid? Like, what do you mean? It's not a way that you normally phrase it.
Not in a negative way. That probably the phrasing came out probably wrong. Not in a negative way. Just didn't
push you to be athletic and try everything.
Well, it was, rather than have us sit inside and play video games and stuff like that, I was always like, particularly when I was younger, I was quite a chubby kid. And also like could be a little socially awkward. So my parents kind of had this whole, it was more about getting us out of the house and teaching us that you had to, be active, and having an active lifestyle was just a part of life. So they'd put us into these team sports and stuff, and summer and winter we had to do one. We had to do something that was physically active because it was good for you. Yep. And that Makes was sense. Kind of, I guess, it wasn't like it was a negative thing. I luckily, it took me a little while, but then I really took to the sports that I participated in. It was pretty much footy all winter and then surf lifesaving all summer.
So and footy, you mean rugby union? Rugby union,
yeah.
Gotcha.
And I played like a New South Wales country level and schools level in rugby, and was competing at like a national level surf lifesaving as well. And that was all, that was good fun, and it taught me that, because I am a competitive person and I wanted to do well at them, that kind of gave me this drive, and it taught me the importance of training. And it's interesting as well. I think it's funny, like becoming a bit of a sort of, I don't know, starting to read into more things like, everything happens for a reason and there's all this sort of stuff. But I remember at primary school when I was less sort of sportingly inclined, I used to really pursue wanting to be, I had a real keen interest in the academic side of things, and I tried really hard at school, and I sat a test and got into a selective high school for an academic high school, and then went there, and I went to this very small primary school where there were only a handful of kids in the grade. And I actually, then once I got into this academic school, it was this kind of big fish in a little pond going to be this like little fish in a big pond, where there were all these like genius level kids, and I was just so overshadowed when it came to the academic side of things that I went, all right, well, I'm going to kind of go down the avenue of sport because I've always played sport. I'm going to kind of go down that avenue, and that's going to be my thing that I can really put my attention into. And then that's where I guess I developed the passion for, I guess, fitness and training from.
Yeah, but that makes sense. I suppose you're always going to kind of gravitate to, it's human nature to gravitate to something that you feel like you can excel at. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Everyone wants to end the day, family, successful, and achieved things. You want to set your mind to something and go out and achieve it. So that's great. So you were working in journalism. So from school, you studied to be a journalist. That was your plan, or?
Nah. So from school, I would also like. My head runs at 100 mile an hour, and I always have like a different idea, and I'm always doing 10 million things at once, and it's kind of been that way for as long as I can remember. And I sort of finished high school and kind of really wanted to travel, but then kind of didn't. I was seeing a girl at the time, and she was at uni, so I was like, fuck, I'm going to go to you. There he is, already dropped my first five. And then I was like,
there we go.
I was like, I'm going to go to uni. And so I went to uni, and I was studying criminology, and I got into that, started studying that. I'm not entirely sure what I wanted to do. I think I'd been watching a lot of CSI at that point in time.
Good.
And then good show.
Really good.
Back in the day, the original, that CSI Miami,
I love my gangster books
I used
too.
to have fucking panic attacks about that show. It used to freak me out. Just dead bodies.
Yeah, right.
I know, but it was like, And for some reason, because it was new, everyone's parents were like, no, it's okay. I know that you're a child and this is quite graphic, but because this is a new show and everyone's into it, you can watch it. So you're sitting there going, fuck, I mean, I'm like, these people get killed all the time. Yeah. No, so we, I lasted all of 6 months there and was like, why the fuck are you at university? You hated school at the end and all you wanted to do was go surfing. So dropped out of uni and I was lifeguarding full time. I was lifeguarding at the time professionally, and so
before we go on, what does lifeguarding pay? It pays well if you're a full-time lifeguard.
Yeah. I mean, but it was only 7 months of the year that I'd work, so I'd work from September through to say end of April.
Yep.
Or early May even. I think it's usually the Anzac Day weekend we'd finish up.
Yep.
So I'd work that stint in time, and it was a pretty good hourly rate for a young guy that's still living at home and that sort of stuff. So I had money and
sick lifestyle
Definitely.
too.
I was sick, and then I'd finish. We'd go to Bali every year. I'd go to Bali, go surfing in the off season. But kind of that life, I guess, the nature of person that I am is I get very stale and very stagnant very quickly, and that fucks with my head a lot. And so I found myself that was cool for kind of a year, and then I found myself in a bit of a rut, like I guess sort of. Mentally, because I felt that I was just completely understimulated. And so I started, which I still do, just spending hours and hours and hours reading about fitness and training and that sort of thing. And that became like this kind of passion of mine, particularly when in the off season, when I wasn't overseas, I effectively did not have a job. I was living off money that I would save in the season. So I'd wake up at like whenever I wanted to, and kind of all I had to do in a day was maybe go and work out. And as I'd go and work out, and then I'd spend hours at my computer. I'd listen to podcasts, I'd read things.
Sounds like a videos. Really fucking good gig.
Yeah.
Well, it does, but at the same time, I found myself, I found myself completely understimulated by that lifestyle, and then made the decision to move to Sydney.
So where were you at this stage?
I'm still on the Central Coast. That's where I grew up.
Gotcha.
And yeah, sort of moved to Sydney and thought I'd pursue a career in the fitness industry. But I dipped my toe in that world and hated it so much that I was like adamant that I was never going to work in that industry.
Some of it sucks, hey?
It's such a fucked industry, man.
Yeah.
Like there's so much... I don't know, could talk for hours.
I actually,
I think
felt
what's wrong with it.
Very, very much the same. I was always wanted something in the fitness industry, and then I don't actually CrossFit anymore. Adventure Fit just engulfed my life, and then competitively, I'm a weightlifter. Tommy loves it when I say that because I say it every show.
Every single show. What are you again, mate? What are you doing?
I'm a weightlifter.
No, that's right. Yeah.
Competitive weightlifter.
Get around it. But
Pick up things off the ground.
But in all seriousness, though, until I found CrossFit, I didn't like the fitness industry either. I literally thought this niche, I found it, and I was like, wow, this actually fucking works. The community aspect is awesome, and that's when I actually entered the fitness industry.
Well, I don't necessarily think this is where like those CrossFit purists out there probably shoot me for this, but I don't necessarily think it's CrossFit so much as just, I guess, the advancement of the fitness industry at the time that I kind of dipped my toes in was still completely overrun by this mentality that bodybuilding and figure modeling and stuff like that was how you trained. You did 4 sets of 10 and you supersetted everything, and that's how you got it. And I was like, this is fucked. I don't want to be this big hulking dude, and I don't want to be working in an industry where you're kind of put on this godlike pedestal if you are this ripped up, hulking
100%.
sort of massive human, even if you have no concept of how to actually train someone.
Have you been to the Health and Fitness Expos before? You do. You competed.
Yeah, I've been down there a few times.
So we've done the Adventure Fit, have been there a couple of times, and the ones that we haven't set up a stall at, I've gone there and walked around. The Health and Fitness Expo in Melbourne and Sydney is the furthest fucking thing from health and fitness. Like, you're looking at extremes. Figure modelling, for mine, I don't like it at all. I really can't get my head around it. Bodybuilding on the other side, powerlifting, like, it's not fitness.
And you have to say that because there's no weightlifting there, though.
There is weightlifting.
There is a bit of weightlifting.
There's weightlifting there
thing that Rob was running.
Yeah, I've been to the one with Rob, like pretty good friends. Rob's a good mate of mine, and I went down and hosted with him the last one that he ran. And it was just like an intermediate one, but he ran like an actual sort of invitational one last year that was pretty sick. But you're right. But I think there is a paradigm shift occurring. Today, I had a meeting this morning with the head of fitness in New South Wales for Fitness First clubs about going in and doing Ask Him This. Quite a funny story. I was sitting at a coffee shop having breakfast, and so this guy walked past, and I saw him kind of double take and then back around in, and I was like, oh, what's this guy's deal? So he came up, he's like, Khan. I was like, yeah. And he's like, you may not remember me, but I sat next to you at this Health and Fitness Expo. We got chatting. I've actually been meaning to get a hold of you. I'm fitness manager at Fitness First, and would you be interested in coming in and doing some seminars and some workshops, like upskilling our PTs on, I guess, functional fitness training from your perspective. And I was like, fuck, that's a pretty massive kind of
Huge thing to
shift
get,
for Fitness First, to be kind of approaching someone that has, particularly someone with no interest in Fitness First, the brand, or working at Fitness First. But yeah, so I sort of thought that was pretty cool.
It's good that they're open to that sort of training.
Exactly right.
Because they're the majority of the industry as well. Really, CrossFit's the minority of the industry, and functional fitness is.
Yeah.
But you're right about that paradigm shift. I mean, you have to look at the past couple of health and fitness expos, and there's definitely a lot more people just watching and seeing what the CrossFitters do, as opposed to, I mean, there were still huge crowds at the bodybuilding and the sculpting and all that sort of stuff. But people are starting to sort of have a look at, what all these tattooed ripped people are doing. It's good. Me definitely being one of them.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's go into. So you've finished your studies, your journalism, then you've started competing in CrossFit, I suppose.
Yeah.
At what point did you realise, right, I'm gonna really take this seriously? Obviously, you said your first crack at it, you kind of made regionals. I suppose after that point, was it like, right, I'm gonna upskill my game. I'm gonna try and hit it harder
10th,
now.
When I finished 10th that first year, I think looking back on that, if I looked at, I didn't deadlift at all because I had a back injury, and I'd been told, because that was kind of what you were told at the time by doctors and sports professionals, don't deadlift because that will hurt your back more. So I hadn't deadlifted, and that workout came up with 21, 15, 9 heavy deadlifts. So I was already fucked then. And I was like, well, okay, maybe if you deadlift for a bit, you might have been able to go better in that workout. So there's a bit of an improvement there. I didn't know how to do muscle ups without a false grip. So I was like, if you can actually learn to do a proper kipping muscle up without a false grip, that's probably going to help you as well. So there's another event that you could have gone better on and improved your placing. And I think I kind of saw that there were just so many holes in my game as an athlete, that I was still able to place where I did, that I thought, you know what, if you actually learn refine the skills, if you will, and have yourself that you're a lot more rounded next year, you're already pretty fit. Pardon me again. You're already pretty fit. You're already pretty good at most.
What is that beer you're drinking, mate?
Stone and Wood.
Nice little Stonewood. Yeah, it's good.
Oh, it's that good. I don't know if Stone and Wood. I assume Stone and Wood's listening to this podcast.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, they are responsible.
www.stoneandwood.com.
Yeah, if there is anyone from Stone and Wood out here, I drink a lot of your beer, and if you would like to send me a couple of free cases, I'm not going to turn them down.
Stone and Wood, hashtag Stone and Wood.
Yeah. Oh, wouldn't it be great? When is beer going to start sponsoring athletes? Probably never.
You should sponsor
you can be the first,
fitness thing, shouldn't they? I reckon that'd be good.
Well,
because you can just go, oh yeah, we like to relax just as much as we want to play.
Exactly right. And at every single competition that I go to, and I'm not sure if this is just because I'm at those competitions, there is always some sort of after event in which there is beer consumed.
Probably solely because of you, mate.
Spearheading that kind of beer consumed campaign.
Are you sponsored by a gaming company?
It's not a sponsorship. I have an agent, and she's fantastic, and she has got me a kind of a setup with Ubisoft. And so Ubisoft, the gaming company, I've done a couple of campaigns for them now, and it's not like, I guess, a specific sponsorship. It's more I just do campaigns for them based around them releasing a new game and me coming up with a workout for that game. And
that's sick.
Then they come and shoot, me doing that workout, etc., and take some photos of me playing the game.
It's actually kind of cool because it's like
cool.
it's kind of like kind of crossing over to the mainstream a little bit as well, because that's a lot of people that wouldn't have seen CrossFit 2. A and 2. Or A and B.
A and B.
Preferably.
That's all right. We can mix it up. Here. We don't discriminate between numbers and letters on this show.
I like to keep you guys
show for everybody.
That's how we do things.
But what's in that water, mate? Is that Stonewood in that water?
Let's go. All right, let's go back to. All right, so you're competing at this stage.
I love a tangent. I'm so sorry.
How good are they?
I get the feeling that's not the first or the last.
No, there's going to be some serious tangents.
I get the feeling that's not the first. Oh, come on. Anyway, Khan, so at that point when you've started the regionals, what was your training look like? How many hours a day? And then when you decided...
This is leading up to my first regionals or from the first regionals?
Yeah, leading up to the first regionals, is it just one a day, you just regular?
No, I was basically just training as much as I could. I would... It was kind of that period in time where Outlaws programming was seen as the pinnacle of what you were meant to do, because apparently you needed to be really, really good at all the Olympic lifts to be able to be good at CrossFit. So I actually devoted a shit ton of time to getting my snatch and my clean and jerk better. And then at regionals, there was neither the snatch nor the clean and jerk, but that's neither here nor there. So that was that made up a huge, because I'd never Olympic lifted. I'd never strength trained per se when I started CrossFit. I'd never done, back squatted twice a week and then snatched and clean and jerked. I learnt those movements I walked into a CrossFit gym and I could kind of just reef 80 kilos off the floor in a snatch and land in this bizarre starfish position, which I still kind of end up in when I'm snatching heavy and I'm going power, unfortunately. But I just had this. So that was a lot of my training. And then I just love working out, man. I just love doing Metcons. And at this point in time, I wasn't one of those all beat up, haggard, old CrossFit guys. They would call me an old CrossFit guy now. That has, creaky knees and elbow tendonitis and has to kind of manage their injuries. I was young and I was new to the sport. So I just trained, dude. I just go, there's no reason that I can't go 21, 15, 9 calories on a rower and burpees now. There's no reason that I can't do that. It's not going to leave me beat up. It's not going to tax me. There's no reason that I can't. And I think these kind of mentalities that I had around training have really shaped the way that I've kind of packaged up what I do, I guess now, which is the methodology to the method behind my training, which is effectively what I've packaged up when I do my online coaching and when I do the seminars and stuff, and why I have this, I guess, replicate, this model that can be replicated that I can go and pitch to companies like Fitness First and stuff like that, because there is a system to what I'm doing. But at that point in time, it was just get training in, man. Just train as much as you can. And anytime I do classes and stuff, and it's basically, if I was in a class, I had to scale up the workout and I had to win. And that was just the mentality that I had. And so that was just this scattergun approach, and it paid off as it did. But then after regionals, I kind of started to structure things more. And I started to work with a coach, Drew Griffith, who's Coach RX, who's on the Gold Coast. And he's great. I'm still good friends with Drew. He coaches Tia, so relatively successful.
He coaches Olympians.
Yeah, some chick named Tia Claire Toomey, that may be the second fittest women in the world.
Yeah. Maybe going to Rio.
And he's also an Olympian now.
Yeah. What a freak athlete, man.
That's
insane.
It's great for the sport in general, and it's great for Australian CrossFit too.
One of my mates said the other day in my weightlifting club, said he wasn't happy with the fact that Tia was going to the games because she's not weightlifting isn't her number one sport. And I was like, why don't you look at it as in how
I sucked in?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
But what about how about what an athlete to be that good and be able to make yourself an Olympian as well as the CrossFit Games?
To go to the CrossFit Games and a couple of weeks later go and lift at the Olympics. A couple of weeks after last year's CrossFit Games, I couldn't lift myself off the floor.
She did last year too. She went to the Games, came second, and then 2 weeks later, or 2 weeks prior, she went to the. It wasn't the Olympics, obviously, but it was the Pan Pacifics, is it?
Yeah,
the Australasian Games, and she came second there, I think. It was a fucking international weightlifting meet.
It's insane.
It's a freak athlete.
Absolute freak. Anyway,
freak athlete.
Yeah. That's right. So I was working with Drew, and the biggest thing was, one, we started to do a lot more refining, but we started to systemize how we, I guess, progressed every facet of fitness. So whether it was my skills, whether it was my strength, whether it was my conditioning, it wasn't just that kind of, I couldn't do a kipping muscle up. So I kind of just after regionals, I sort of spent about 12 weeks on my own before I started working with the coach going, I want to bring all these skills up to par until I feel like I'm sort of a bit more rounded, then I'll go with the coach. And so one of the things was, I can do zero, kipping muscle up. I can do one kipping muscle up with a non-false grip. Cool. I'll do one kipping muscle up every minute for 10 minutes. And then the next week's like, okay, now I'll do 2 for as many minutes as I can link them together, and then I'll just go back to 1. Yeah. And I was like, sweet, I can do 3, I can do 4, I can do 5. Sweet. I got to 5 kipping muscle ups every minute for 10 minutes. I was like, sweet, my muscle ups are now significantly better, and I'm pretty confident that I can do them without a false grip. So let's look at the next skills that I need to do. I did a deadlift program. The boys at the gym actually just did the exact same deadlifting program that I put myself on, which was based off, there's this, I was looking around at different sort of 3-day-a-week lifting programs, and there's one called the Russian squat program. And I was like, I wonder if I can do this with deadlifts. And I did, and I got like epic results from that. My ability to deadlift just turned from me not being able to deadlift at all to within, it's like a 6-week program. 6 weeks later, my deadlift was, pretty solid.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously I've been pulling from the floor with a snatch and the clean and jerk, but I just hadn't devoted time. And then I started working with Drew though, and we sort of went into and he was great, like phenomenal for my training, having some structure and having someone I was accountable to. And then I went and did Schwartz's, and I placed quite well at Schwartz's. I think I placed 5th. Again, still with things that they tested a max handstand hold. I'd never tried the hold a handstand
I competed
before.
that, Schwartz's, actually.
Did ya?
Yeah, because I remember the max handstand hold in 2 minutes in the
Yeah,
square.
yeah, and you could walk around, and I could barely
man.
I
walk.
thought you said you were a weightlifter.
Yeah, hang on a second. We're starting to backtrack here.
Hang on.
No, but he also doesn't discriminate between his numbers and his letters. He doesn't discriminate between
Yeah, that's
CrossFit
right.
and
That's
weightlifting.
very true, yeah.
A jack of all trades.
A2.
And
That's the quote of the episode, I think.
yeah, A2. A or two. I feel like I've done that so many times.
So that's probably the dumbest thing I've said on the podcast.
That's not a spoonerism, is it? That's not.
What?
That's not called a
a
spoonerism, is it?
spoonerism.
Spooner?
No, isn't it like a spoonerism, like when you do that, or no?
That's the first
Yeah,
time
I
I've
think
ever heard
so.
the word spoonerism.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Let's
We'll figure it out,
not
yeah.
do a tangent about spoonerism.
Sorry.
Let's
God, no, I'm genuinely intrigued as to
I'm
what
looking this up. I'm
spoonerism
looking this up.
means. You look that up while we get back to Schwartz's. But so, yeah, I think I placed 5th at that Schwartz's competition. But again, there was like a bunch of things that he tested there that I'd never really done before. And I also still do had a massive issue with pacing. I didn't know how to pace workouts. I would just go out guns blazing,
Get real excited,
and just hold on. And that doesn't work when you're versing people like Rob Forte, who's the master of pacing workouts. You'd be like, why was I beating him by so much and now he's ahead of me? But it was a massive confidence boost to be sitting, up there with the big dogs at that event, beating some of the boys in some of the events as well. Mm-hmm. So then going into regionals 2014, I 100% did not think I was going to make the games. I had no aspirations to make the games. The programming came out. They had a handstand walk for max distance. I sucked on my hands. And I remember thinking, okay, what people are going to get maybe one length of the thing. Someone that's really good will be able to walk one length.
Yeah.
We were the second week. And I remember watching the first week and looking at the numbers and being like, this doesn't make sense. Like, there's got to be, how are they scoring this? That can't be how far they've walked in total. That's like 3 lengths that people are doing unbroken. And then I realized I went and watched the workouts. I was like, I'm fucked. Like, I'm so fucked. I'm not going to make a full
That's the one that
length of
killed
this
Sam
room.
Briggs too.
Yeah, that did.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I think I came 30th in that. So, I mean, I PR'd my hand. So I made like 100 foot. So I almost made a full length. And I think I was sitting 19th after that. And as I said, just no part of me thought I was going to go to the games. Drew just sort of said, I'll make sure you win. The next one, it was that Nasty Girls. And weirdly, because I'm not anymore, so I've had that many knee injuries, I was really good at pistols when I started CrossFit. Mm-hmm. And it was just, a pistol workout and pistols and muscle ups. Obviously, I've been working my muscle ups heaps. And yeah, I was able to win that and it pushed me up into 6th. And I kind of looked at the rest of the workouts for the weekend and thought, I'm not too bad at any of this sort of stuff here. Like, I could give this a crack. And then, overhead squats I suck, but they were the final workout. And I just had to sort of do that mistake free. And yeah, when I qualified for the games that year, I was pretty blown away. Like, I kind of didn't expect it. And I loved it. Like, it was awesome. It kind of changed my scope a little bit. And then all of a sudden, for better or worse, I started to define myself as an athlete. And that was kind of what I wanted, I guess, to pursue was an athletic career. And it became, from a pipe dream to a reality that there was this potential for me to do that. And
So cool.
I just wanted to ask before. Yeah, you mentioned you said you had a lot of knee injuries. How is your body managing now? And like, how do you take that, I guess, new approach to managing everybody going into this year's
touch wood? This is probably the best my body's been in quite some time. I still have knee issues that flare up here and there. I had a tear, tore my patella tendon last year. Well, not a full tear, but a partial tear in my patella tendon from the games last year.
Yep.
And that kind of took me until I wasn't really squatting until sort of mid-January this year. And I was only training. I think one of the best things that ever happened to me was being so banged up after the games that it really stopped me. I couldn't train as much. And I was sort of only training 3 full days a week. I guess up until the end of the Open. I mean, right through the Open and stuff as well. I was training 3 full days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Then I'd swim on a Tuesday with some of the boys from the gym. And I would then maybe do a Metcon on the Saturday. But I wouldn't, it would depend. If I went out Friday night, I wouldn't train Saturday. But I would just train Saturday morning. And that kind of more chilled approach to my volume particularly. And I was so limited in what I could do. I was just a lot of assault bike, a lot of rowing and stuff, and a lot of skill work. And that period of lower volume did wonders for my body, combined with the fact that I work with Balance Health and Performance. It's just a blatant plug right there. That's what that was.
That's what we're good for.
They're actually fantastic. Nick from Balance is really, really good. He and I've been seeing him twice a week. Seeing him in a professional manner. Twice a week, every week.
He's not gay. He's not gay.
Back to that first part of the song.
All the single ladies, remember the song?
So I've been going there twice a week and seeing him and some of the other people there, and it's great. Like that sort of consistent treatment has combined with the lower volume and just smarter training, man. I think I've just gotten smarter with, CrossFit's an evolving sport, and my approach to training and my approach to how to train effectively has changed to meet the demands of that sport. And it just sees my body in a better position now, particularly in the lead up to the games. I was pretty broken going into the games last 2 years.
It's funny, when we spoke to Rob, he said that this year or this season he's had probably more days off than he's ever had, and he feels like he's in a better place than he's ever been. Mitch
Cinnamon as well.
Yeah, Mitch said that as well, didn't he?
We interviewed Mitch Cinnamon, who's obviously trained at Schwartz's for a good portion of his training career. And, there's so many people that have spent 5 or 6 hours a day training. But Mitch, he's been in that period, and then now he's back to kind of one good 2-hour session. He'll break that up sometimes. So he'll just squat, he'll do an hour, then he'll do some recovery stuff, and then he'll do another hour. And then he's getting
recovery stuff.
And he just
sauna, his flotation tank.
He just qualified to the games for the first time. So what does it look like now for you then, after years of experience? After, how old are you now?
26.
26, so a couple of extra years in the body, obviously. I'm 30. I know it actually changes. Like 22, I could do anything. 17, I used to play 3 or 4 games of footy, school footy in a week.
It's crazy. You play 3 or 4 games of footy in a day.
Yeah, no shit. It wouldn't affect you at all. And then now it's totally different. I'm 30. It's different. I know how the body changes. Mate. So how for you does it? How does it look now, volume wise? I
just honestly just go by feel. Like I work with Justin, who I know you guys interviewed as well, Kotler, and he sends me programming, which I stick to. I don't know, I guess I'd say maybe like 60%, 50, 60%. But then I'll also just go by feel. If Monday this week, I trained like 3 times, did like 7 workouts, and just felt awesome all day. So I did that. Today, I feel like shit. Like I told you guys when I came in, I just finished up a workout. I squatted terribly. I did 5 rounds of a 7-round workout, like interval workout, and didn't feel that great. I'll gauge it if I feel decent this afternoon. I might do another Metcon, but it will be just like 10 minutes of Metcon, movements that aren't going to hurt me, movements that aren't going to tax my central nervous system and my joints. And it's just that kind of intuitive training now as well becomes so important to being able to, I guess, stay functional. And that's the biggest difference now is training, that sort of intuitive training, I guess, more than anything else.
So when you say stay functional, obviously, like rehab and looking after your body is a pretty big part of it as well, especially when you are right at the top of CrossFit, for example, because it's so hard on your body, so much volume. So what do you do for keeping your body supple, keeping your ability to back it up in the gym? What do you do? What are your practices that you
So I'm
like to get up to?
Blessed and cursed with hypermobility through a lot of my joints. It's great for some things. It's great for the fact that I could roll out of bed first thing in the morning barefoot and hop down to the bottom of a pistol, but it's also terrible. And I can do the splits. Not really. Pretty close to. But it's also...
Side or front?
Pardon?
Side or front?
Side. The practical way.
The good way. The only way.
The only way. The only way that counts.
That's right.
But then it also means that I lack control at the end range in most movements. So for me, if you watch when I do really heavy jerks or cleans or snatches and stuff, I often look quite wobbly. Which is because those joints, for me, if I'm overhead and my arm is slightly in front of my head, I don't really get a stretch sensation until it's kind of almost completely turned around, full exorcist style at the back there. So I'm kind of, I've gotten a lot better at working on those stability type things, and that kind of puts a lot of stress on the joints. So I don't necessarily do a huge amount of, I guess, like your typical mobility, because a lot of that is almost counterproductive for me. I do a fair bit of static stretching now. My buddy Matt Healy, he started static stretching and was telling me how good it felt. And so I've just started a lot more static stretching in the areas that I'm not super mobile through. But then do a lot of sort of the more activation, stabilization and stuff like that. But then, I relax. I think for me, the biggest thing that I need to work on recovery-wise is my mind. It's like getting that to sort of chill out and stop. And it's something that I like have like full clinical issues with. But I'm able to kind of like, I've taken particularly the last few months, just getting out of the gym, not putting pressure on myself when it comes to training, doing training intuitively rather than what I have to do on a piece of paper.
Absolutely.
Doing what feels good rather than what like, you know, oh fuck, my legs are still getting back to where they used to be because I didn't squat from August through to January. But instead of being stressed about that and consistently starting these hectic squat programs that 3 days in would leave my knees banged up, I'm just like, well, if you can't squat that good at the games, guess what? You're not going to do that great in the squat events. Like if you get a little bit better at squatting between now and the games, the other guy's already great at squatting, you might go, instead of coming 20th in that event, you might come 15th or 18th. You'll make 6 different points. However, if your knees are non-functioning for the entire weekend, then all of a sudden there's events that you could potentially do really well at that you're going to lose points at.
Definitely.
For sure. And if your brain's fried through a 6-month period of training and you're putting too much pressure on yourself, you're useless to anyone.
It's just frustrating.
It is frustrating.
Like there was a period of time, like we were saying, I guess we stopped at kind of 2014. 2015 came around, regionals, and I was just in such a shitty place mentally because, I had a fucked back end of the year 2014. I had a bunch of shit going on in my personal life. And then a bunch of shit at the start of 2015 as well. And like I was in like a legitimately terrible place mentally, like a terrible, terrible place. You can ask anyone that I'm close to. I almost pulled out of regionals 2015 the week of because I had such hectic shit going on in my personal life that I was, and because I had all this, not all of it, but then some of it was added to by this pressure that I'd put on myself that, you made the CrossFit Games last year. You must make the CrossFit Games again this year. If you don't make the CrossFit Games this year, well,
you're
what
a failure.
the fuck? What do you do?
Yep.
And I was just in such a bad way. And I think even off the back of the games, like the frustration that went with not being able to train properly and stuff like that, and just all the shit you go through and you kind of learn about yourself when you're not able to do. To do what I think 2015, it wasn't something that I loved anymore. I saw it as a chore. This beautiful thing that had been this outlet for me and this kind of positive thing on my sort of mental health was now a source of frustration and a source of a difficulty because I wasn't enjoying it. And, it became, especially off the back of the games and stuff being injured, it became like, this thing that used to be a positive outlet became a negative. And therefore, like, what else have you got to do? So I was just partying and drinking and shit. And that was kind of my only, that was my outlet.
Yep.
And
when training used to be your outlet.
Training used to be. And now I'm at this point in time where I'm incredibly lucky that I'm able to train the full spectrum for the first time in as long as I can remember. Mm-hmm. Like I can squat when I want to squat. I can pull from the floor when I want to pull. I can go overhead. My whole body is working to the extent that I'm able to train. I can get sent a program and I can do it. I don't have to be like, my knees are too banged up. I can't squat consistently. And, my body's in a good place. And it's so nice. And I'm enjoying training so much. I kind of set myself that goal after regionals, particularly this year. I remember this year, like sitting in 6th after day 2. I never found myself outside the top qualifying position going into day 3. The last 2 years I'd qualified.
Yep.
Particularly last year, me and Rob were so far ahead that it was kind of, I got to take my foot off the pedal, the accelerator to an extent on the final day. Which was lovely, but at the same time, so I found myself in this position. I was like, well, you can't take it for granted anymore. Like the fact that you're going to the games is a gift and a privilege, and it's something that should be enjoyed, particularly the training for it. I mean, I get to do cool shit. I get to go and like paddle a board or go for a run through the bush and like just
you to come in and hang out with your mates and put some fun music on. So you obviously you see it on your Instagram and your social medias. People are drawn to you, I think, because you have fun with what you're doing.
Well,
you don't take yourself too seriously.
Out in the post,
you don't take yourselves too seriously, and that's like me walking into the gym. It's my happy place, 100%. And I used to have a football club. Now I have a weightlifting club. But like you say, when there's times that I've been through as well with football, with weightlifting, with whatever, when it becomes a chore and then you're like, well, where the fuck's my happy place now?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, exactly right. And
Definitely.
I do like that. You talked about it when you did your intro thing. That Beyonce single ladies video exists for the pure like this. I didn't create that video to put on Instagram. I didn't go, I'm going to do a dance, then I'm going to lift that bar.
This is going to go viral.
Rolling the camera, filming a lift, and I'd been dancing around the gym anyway, and I just danced on over, lifted the bar, and then danced off. Like that's just how. We would train. And the thing was, when I say that training was a negative, it wasn't always. There were sessions like that were just awesome and things felt good and I was having fun. But then as soon as anything kind of went wrong and the frustration of having these ongoing injuries took place, that's when I would just start to beat myself up mentally as well. And it just became a negative. So right now, man, it's just awesome. I'm loving training. I have absolutely no expectation on how I'm going to go at the games. I don't, I have no desire. I'm not going to win the CrossFit Games. I'll tell you that right now. I would probably never win it because I don't have that pressing desire to win it. I just want to enjoy the opportunity that I have to represent myself, my gym, my country, and all my fans and followers, I guess, if you will, on the world stage, doing something I love. And the opportunity that I get, the opportunities they get off the back of that to then... to go over and like it's fucking exercise at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly,
Like,
It's fast exercise. It's really fast. Sometimes it's quick. It's quick.
Sometimes it's really slow though as well. Sometimes it's really slow and tedious. There's like people running on a treadmill for 8 minutes is not that enjoyable.
That's the thing though. You said it really well just then. I mean, the best people in the world are the best people in the world because they're fucking obsessed about it.
Yeah.
And irrespective of whether they enjoy the process or not, it doesn't matter. They have to win. I mean, I'm just reading Michael Jordan's book at the moment, and he was a dickhead for a lot of it because he just had to win, and there was just no other side to it. I really wanted to touch on the point you were talking about finding that mental relaxation and all that sort of stuff. Are there any
exactly what I was about to
You just going to jump into that one? Yeah. I'm going to jump in there first.
No, go. No,
Are there any
Guys, you can both jump into me.
We'll jump in the time. Yeah, that's
this
right.
is really starting.
We're not seeing each other. We're not seeing each other.
For the worst.
Everybody, pants are all still on. I wanted to hit home about some of the things you may do. I mean, Bill and I are super into meditating and all that sort of stuff. Do you meditate? Do you do mindfulness? Do you have a specific thing that works for you to relax, to switch off?
So I've tried meditation and I've tried mindfulness. I'm medically diagnosed with bipolar and severe anxiety. So for me to switch off, it's kind of, if I try to sit there and meditate, so I've my anxiety is so severe and like my partners that I've had in the stuff in the past and like family will tell you, if I'm trying to go, there's times where I won't get to sleep until 7 a.m. I just don't sleep. And the more I try to relax, the less relaxed I get. So I really have to do things to stimulate myself, but in a pretty simple way to switch off. And that's, for me, I'm still figuring out how to do that. Like there are times and there's awesome moments where I can really chill out, but meditation and mindfulness, I wish I could sit here and go, yeah, it's beautiful. I've tried it. I've tried apps. I've tried every sort of thing under the sun, and it doesn't work. I don't switch off. The more I try to meditate and clear my mind, the more my mind just goes, well, we're not doing anything right now.
The more frustrated you get.
Fuck you up.
Yeah.
And then everything just goes to shit. I think.
Wow.
Some of the best things that I've found is conversation is just something so simple, like having a conversation with someone where you just get so immersed in that person, and it can be, when I talk about getting immersed into anything where you become completely immersed in a moment. And for me, there is a beautiful thing that happens before I compete. And sometimes it happens in the gym, but very rarely. And it's that kind of point in time before, when you're in the start mat in a competition and they say, athletes stand by. From when they say athletes stand by to go, you are completely and totally invested in nothing but what's about to happen.
Present. Yep. You're present, totally present.
So and it's a task at hand. You're not invested in trying to relax. You're invested in a task that you have to take part in immediately following them saying go. So when that point in time is one of the beautiful things, and I get, I love, there's been definitely destructive ways that I've sort of sought out trying to switch things off in my head, you know, be that, you know, alcohol or partying or even like, you know, chicks. Like there's been destructive means of doing that. But yeah, I guess I'm still trying to figure out. I love listening to, I've sort of recently started listening to podcasts, reading, and I still write. I mean, if you scroll through the notes section of my phone, there is just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of things that I've just written. Because sometimes when my head's going so fast, I'll just stream of consciousness, put it onto paper. And
Definitely.
that actually sometimes really helps calm me down and it gives me something to focus. So if anything, that would be, I guess that's probably the main one. But yeah,
and it's
I don't know.
super unique to you as well.
Yeah,
which
I
is
mean,
awesome.
if you read some of the stuff, you'd probably go, fuck, someone needs to put this bloke in a bin, like a loony bin. But some of it's actually quite beautiful and poetic as well.
But that's part of the... See, it's myself and Tommy have both struggled with anxiety as well.
Yeah.
Tommy has, he can explain it, he has totally different anxiety to me. Me, it's social anxiety. I feel like I'm going to say something stupid in the room.
Yeah.
Somebody's bigger and more boisterous than me, I go into my shell and I start thinking things over the... Tommy's is different things like death and stuff.
Yeah, probably more like irrational fears that have just engulfed me a lot. And, you know, things where it's like I kind of felt... When I was going through the worst of it, it was kind of like, oh, I don't feel like I can open up about this to anyone because it's so
silly.
Bizarre. Like, why would I have a fear about like eternal suffering after death and ghosts?
And that is
things.
such a kind of prevalent. That's a huge thing that I've really shifted what I want to do with, I guess, the platform that I've been given through being an athlete. And when I said before, we sort of stopped, it's just exercise and there's more to that. I'm realizing now that the thing that this has given me isn't a mechanism, you know, going to the games isn't a means for me of winning the CrossFit Games. It's a means for me being able to like reach out and speak to people about things like mental health, particularly in guys. When like you just nailed it. You don't want to talk about that because you see it as being somehow emasculating, and yet all of a sudden you've got these guys competing in this really sort of hyper masculine sport. They go, no, it's actually okay to be fucking not okay.
Fragile.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You know what? What I was meaning to touch on with before we got on a little tangent again is with your journaling or whatever, putting your notes in. It's like when you go and speak to someone about this fears that you have inside your head and you verbalize it or you write it down and you look at it and you go, fuck, that is silly.
Yeah.
You know, you being able to read it and see it in words and or speak it to somebody else and actually it puts it into perspective and you go, why the fuck am I really thinking like that? And it can kind of alleviate the pressure a little bit.
But it almost removes you. For me, I feel like sometimes it can be as simple as a lot of my anxiety is kind of twofold. It's like that sort of social, and people sort of have this perception that I'm this really outgoing.
You have the exact same perception as me.
We all have the same thing.
People are like, oh my God, you never would have thought I'm like you, but you don't know inside fucking my
and
head.
And often people will come across and go like, you're actually quite rude and quite arrogant. And I'm like, I'm not. I feel uncomfortable. I might know someone.
I've listened to, just cut you off. I've had that same thing happen to me. I've been called arrogant plenty of times once.
We spoke about this on the show.
We spoke about this on the podcast because I didn't wave to somebody on the other side of the road when I was little. And what was going through my head is, I wonder if they're going to wave. I wonder if they can see me.
Yes,
they didn't see me. Fucking hell.
To the T. I used to avoid going to like shopping centers and stuff where I knew I might see people I kind of know.
Yeah.
Because then I'd be in that awkward situation where I was like,
don't know where
do I make conversation with this person? But my conversation, what if it's weird? Like, what if the conversation is weird and they think I'm weird? So I would like purposefully remove myself from that. Or I would like go, like I've had people say before, I like go to a friend's gym or something like that and maybe like not go and introduce myself or go and say hello and stuff to people that I may have met once or twice before. But what they don't understand is like I'm super duper shy like that.
Yeah.
And I always have been. And it's this kind of like, people's perception is, you know, people create these perceptions. And then once those perceptions exist as well and you're aware of these perceptions people have of you, fuck, that just resonates around and around. You're like, fuck, now am I even more weird because I'm not speaking to them and now I'm awkwardly making conversations to make myself not seem arrogant. Yeah, it's this vicious cycle. But it's this thing that like we're all sitting here talking about the same thing and it's something that I'm so passionate about because there are probably hundreds of people listening to this going, fuck, I feel like that as well, but never even open their mouths about it because they think it sounds so illogical and stupid. We idolize these figures of traditional masculinity that exude this confidence and they've got everything going for them and all their ducks are in a row and they're so self-assured.
We look at still images or
that's all you have
48
to-
minutes of play or 2 hours of. We see that of those people as well.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly
it's the same.
right.
It's the same fucking problem. You don't see inside of their head and what they've
And
been.
you, I guess you make up what you perceive them to be, and it's completely, clearly not true.
And mate, like I'm completely guilty of it as well, and have been. I mean, I do pride myself on trying to be as open as possible as I can through social media. But there's also, I mean, when you look at when I first started using social media, you know, I said before I have like a background in the comms industry and I understand marketing and journalism, but there is an element of this is advertising, effectively a brand, which
Absolutely.
is me. So
Yep.
you're going to give them a glimpse behind the glass, but at the same time, it's still such a kind of small scope, this kind of tiny little piece of a person that people are seeing and basing these wild assumptions and perceptions off. And yeah, I think that, you know, it can be a very dangerous world to get caught up in. And it's something that now might, like, you know, hugely what I want to do moving forward as I guess, not an athlete so much as someone that has a platform with
Fitness
an
figure.
audience is to talk about that, because it's so important and it is so much bigger than exercise.
Yeah.
And that's a huge realization that I've made through my own journey with mental health. And it's an ongoing journey. It's not something that I would necessarily say is completely, you know, I wouldn't
you haven't
necessarily
won.
say I'm like fucking good.
Yeah.
Like I'm all good to go. I mean, only a week ago I was so run down because I wasn't getting to bed until like 7 a.m. And asked the chick that I'm seeing at the moment, like, I have physical, like my anxiety attacks can be so bad that I'll physically fit in bed, like laying there, and I can't, like, it can be so bad that I just don't sleep for hours and hours and hours and hours.
It's fucked, man.
Yeah. And so it's definitely not better, but you know, it's that openness and acceptance of it and how you deal with it is such a pivotal part of the recovery process. And it's the part that most people don't even start on that journey, and they just accept it. And you know, that's why you look at, there's staggering statistics out there. You know, the incidence of mental health issues documented in women are like double that of men, yet men are 3 to 1 killing themselves to chicks. Now, why do you think that is?
My grandfather killed himself.
Yeah.
His father before him killed himself. I have family members that I won't name that are very, very, very. But the good thing is, it's much more highly spoken about in this day and age than it was. I took my grandma.
Still isn't there yet.
No, it's
but
not.
It's
But it is getting there.
It is getting there.
I
yeah.
had lunch with I stayed down in Mornington the other day, outside of the city of Melbourne, basically, and I crashed at my nan's, had a party going on or whatever, and the next day I took her out to lunch, caught up with my nan and stuff. And
Your nan had a party going on.
That's my nan. Yeah, that's my nan.
Raging.
That's
Cool.
that's my nan that lost my grandpa to killing himself.
Yes.
And I had a really good chat with her, and she says, because my grandpa was the same. He was like captain of his of school footy. He didn't get to play any sport as an adult because his father took him and made him work from 14 years old. But he was captain of the footy team, captain of the cricket team. He looked like Anthony Koutafidis, like he's an AFL footy
don't
player,
know who that is.
like a Greek god, like really
Gotcha.
jacked, brown skin, most gregarious, outgoing dude you ever meet. But my grandmother said that it was two sides, like everybody. It was like his persona out in the open, and then he would come home and he would switch off and he would be a fucking shell of himself.
Absolutely.
And the problem was that she said that he was medicated from 35 till he took his own life. And then, but the thing was, she said he couldn't ever speak about it to his mates because it would be,
At
like
that
you say,
time as well, like, it would
emasculated.
have just been completely. And
That
particularly
time,
when
yeah.
you've got this persona, and this is the issue as well. If you have this persona that's kind of this, like you said, these ideals that society puts out there that are the ideal man, and you're exuding them and you're being praised for them, and all of a sudden you start to define yourself by these qualities that society kind of give to you and say, hey, you've got this, you are that. Then all of a sudden that becomes even more difficult to talk about it. And even things like, you know, that outgoing, gregarious sort of personality becomes this mask that you get really good at wearing when you're in front of people, because that's what people respond
Yeah,
to. Because
that's what
and
they
you know,
expect.
and that just beats you up even more, because all of a sudden now you're living this lie to the masses that you have to kind of keep up, and that's going to eat you up and eat you up and eat you up and eat you up,
Yeah.
and then it just gets worse. But medication as well. I mean, the meds that I've been on. So I have had mental health issues for as long as I can remember now. And like, we now know that it's been diagnosed bipolar and severe anxiety. So I was diagnosed with bipolar 3 days before regionals last year. That's the reason I was going to pull out. I was like, this is fucked. I was going to be told I have to go on medication.
Wow.
And so I started that medication cycle, which I'm not on anything at the moment because it was just, stuff fucks you up, man.
Yeah.
Like I would take this stuff and it was just a walking zombie. I'd feel like I couldn't keep my eyes open. I would just pull over my car once driving home I came into the gym and I couldn't stay awake. And my business partner every time was like, you just need to go home. Like, you're fucked. So I left and I had to pull over, and I was living in Glebe, and this gym here is so it's like a less than 10-minute drive. I had to pull over on the way home because I could not keep my eyes open. And that was a point in time where I was like, there's something, this isn't helping. This is just making it worse because now I can't fucking function. So but that's the thing, like, you kind of, medication is seen as, well, you go on the meds because that's a way to deal with it, because society hasn't quite accepted, a group of guys sitting down in a room and just being like, oh yeah, like if someone's got, heaven forbid that I compare this to anything terrible, but if someone's got a broken arm and their arm hurts, and you wouldn't say to that person, hey man, can you carry this huge box of this box of bricks for me?
Definitely.
You just wouldn't even do it. And if they wanted to sit down like, fuck, my arm is so sore, you're like,
I wouldn't
dude,
be carrying a fucking box of bricks
you
for
have
anyone.
a broken arm.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, that
Yeah.
sucks. Like, it's you have that injury.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's not seen like that anymore. Like, I even have a very close friend of mine when I was like talking to at one point in time, and like I was just talking about stuff, and he said, I was like, and he still is a very close friend of mine. I just understand his perception. He said, I don't believe that mental health is a real thing. I think it's all in your head. I think that it's something that you can be diagnosed with, but I think you can just get over it. And I was like, fuck, like, how rough is that when this is one of my like, really close friends is point blank telling me that they think that the shit that's going on inside my head doesn't actually exist.
Yeah.
It's just my own doing.
It's the whole thing.
And I was like, holy fuck, man. Like, that's still the prevailing sort of sentiment for the majority of guys out there.
It's just me.
Oh, you're depressed, are you? Oh, have a beer, mate. You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Have a laugh.
Come on.
Have a laugh.
Come on.
I don't think it's that bad. And like, this guy, like,
It's definitely getting better, but it's
still so far from where it could be, where it's just kind of accepted that it's the same as if, you've got someone that's, a diabetic and needs to take insulin. That doesn't change them as a person. They just have to do that. If you've got someone that has a mental health issue and they might need a little bit of them time, or they might have a few quirks that they've got to kind of deal with and that sort of thing, but that's just normal, and it's something that you can be open and speak about. And that's where I think that society really needs to have that huge cultural shift, because without it, like, we're just going to keep going 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
And I guess it's like, this is a very general thing to say, but I will say it anyway. I guess it's like every person's, like Bill just said before, all of our anxieties are obviously very different to each other. But it's that having that understanding that anxiety is still anxiety. If you're freaking out about something, you're in the same boat as me. You're in the same boat as you.
Exactly right.
It's just like, what do we do? What's the next What's the next step forward? Definitely.
Interesting. All right.
Now,
So
that was a tangent.
Yeah, that's right. So how was your training going anyway?
Yeah, but anyway, so all that said, now training is becoming an enjoyable thing for me again, which is brilliant, because it means I'm not going out and sinking piss like a madman all the time and, whatever, chasing skirt. Like, I'm happy training.
which
again.
are all still
That's good to hear, man.
good parts of a
I
well-rounded
still do go
life.
out. Don't get me wrong. I still do go out and sink piss like a madman from time to time.
More than adequate.
I have a party this weekend. I had a party last week. It was great, but at the same time now it's less of a means of escape, which is a very dangerous way to be viewing things like binge drinking and partying.
Yeah, for
when
sure.
that's kind of your way of switching off. That becomes
It's a healthy
Addiction
pastime.
is
Yeah.
used as an escape, and whatever that is, it can be beer, it can be exercise, it can be detrimental. Should we do some GBS?
Let's do it, mate.
Alrighty. So
these are those
segments, mate. So something good, something bad, and then something sciencey. What did I write for the good? Oh, here we go. Okay. The Cavs. Are you an NBA man?
Mate, to be completely honest with you, I'm not.
Okay.
There's very few sports that I watch. To be completely fair, I love the rugby and I watch the surfing, and that's probably about it.
Well, that's okay, because I haven't really written a whole lot here. I just brought the Cavs up. I'll flick it over. This is a fucking bizarre tangent, but I really want to hit the nail on the head on this one. So I'll give you some facts, and then I'll ask my question. The Cavs were the first team to rally from a 3-1 deficit to win the NBA Finals. That is true, Doc.
Yeah, 100%.
Good. Both Kyrie Irving and LeBron James join an esteemed group of becoming the third and fourth players to win a final at their originally drafted club out of 33 past players. That is Correct.
I assume so, mate.
That's good.
If you've done the
Correct,
research.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes. Correct.
Now, my question is, you know how those fuckers call themselves world champions?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, it's because
let's be honest,
They're
here,
arrogant
if any
Americans.
other basketball team
It's
played
true.
them, they
Look,
probably beat them.
look, theoretically, they're world champions. Theoretically.
But you're also missing the point that America is the world to Americans.
That is true. That is very true, yeah.
It's America and then a bunch of other stuff floating around in the American Ocean.
Yeah, to all our American listeners, we don't
I
agree
love
with that at
America.
all.
I spend most of the time. I spend a great deal of time in America. I do love America.
We love you guys.
Taking
We love
the
you.
piss. Australian humour.
Cards going to get shot as soon as he gets to America.
Yeah, I'm going to get off the plane and there's just going to be people standing there. I have enough issues getting through customs with the name Khan and an arrogant tattoo on my neck. Now, where are you from, sir? Australia. You've been from Pakistan, aren't you?
What about
Pakistan?
Yeah.
What about my mate? One of my mates asked me once, Khan, where I was from in Australia, and no, it started with me asking him where he was from in the States. He was from Maine, which is like upstate New York. I
Super
can pretty
close
much
to Canada, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I can
Fuck
pretty
God.
much point the rough region of the States of where Maine is.
Yeah, yeah.
I've never been there, but and he asked me. He came back at me. He's like, "And where are you from, Bill? Whereabouts in Australia are you from?" I said, "I'm from Melbourne, actually." And he goes, "Melbourne? Is that like Sydney?"
Is that kind of just not as good?
Yes, it is.
Hey, hang on a second, mate.
What the
I thought that one was going to slide through.
Yeah, that's right. No, we'll give it to you. Alrighty. The bad. Texan woman speaks like Mary Poppins after operation to fix her overbite. Born and bred Texan Lisa Alabama. Oh, I've
Is that a
definitely got
real
that
name,
wrong.
mate?
Born and bred Texan
Yeah, this
Lisa
sounds like a
Alabama.
made-up story that you're trying to
that's
tell
right.
us now to sound
Mary
cool.
Poppins. Okay, so apparently this chick 6 months ago was a mum of three. She underwent surgery to correct an overbite, and when she woke up from anaesthesia, the Texan drawl was gone and it was replaced with a British accent. It's
Well,
pretty
I'm calling
strange.
bullshit straight away.
Yeah, that's right.
That didn't happen.
Well, here we
She
go.
just likes Mary Poppins.
Yeah,
and now
just loves it.
Yeah.
Oh, hello. The operation left the 33-year-old Rosenberg native suffering a rare neurological disorder medics say has affected less than 100 people worldwide in the last 100 years. She said, quote unquote, people who don't know me, they're like, hey, hang on, I'll get the accent right. People who don't know me, they're like,
Well,
hey,
she doesn't speak like that
where are
now.
you from? Oh, yeah. People who don't know me, they're like, where are you from? Lisa said, oh, just a spoonful of sugar. So my question to you guys was, if you could have anyone's voice in the world, who would it be and why? Now, mine's Morgan Freeman.
Oh, fuck you. I was just
Did
about
you
to
say
say
that? Can you do a Morgan Freeman
That's a
impersonation?
good voice.
There's nothing great Morgan and Freeman impersonations like.
Look at that couch over there.
I wish I could say that the Monopoly man thought the good fight. The sisters left him alone.
Sounds a little less black.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. If I
Sounds
could
like
have
he's got
anyone's voice-
a cold or something.
Oh, no, do you know what? Here's why. I would have, like, John Legend, so I could
Oh,
just
yeah.
serenade chicks with my... I mean, can you imagine that if you just walked into a room and you could sing like John Legend? And I was like, oh, you're like kind of cute. What do you want to do? Like, oh my God. Hand it to me off as quick as you can do. You wouldn't even have to buy... You would never buy another drink in your life.
So true.
You
I
could
reckon
sing
I'd
that
take-
Mary Had a Little Lamb if you sounded like John Legend and that girl is going home with you.
Yeah.
I reckon I'd take a nice Jamaican accent. You know the dude, you know from like
Pointless.
cool Runnings? You know,
What?
You know like,
Alright, well, we'll
what
let
about, you know the scene in Cool Runnings where they stack and then the guy, I don't know which character, what his character name was, but when he goes, hey, Sanka, you dead, man. You know that guy? I'll be that guy.
That's
I do
good.
know him.
I'll be that guy.
But you kind of already were that guy.
I was going to say, you just put that
Jamaican
voice
voices
on.
are cool as fuck.
Just talk like that. From Mary Poppins lady
Yeah,
was
man,
able to do it.
I can talk like that.
What you can do is go in for like break your arm on purpose. Go in to get your surgery on your arm and just come like, this weird disease that happened to this woman. And
I don't know what's going on, man.
Can you do the Jamaican
No,
for
I
me?
talk like this.
Can you fix my arm and do the Jamaican?
Ganja. Hey, you know all about deodorant. All right. Final one. The science. China unveils the fastest supercomputer in the world. So, the crown for the fastest supercomputer remains in China, with Sunway Tahihu Light, I believe that's a regional dialect, taking the top spot from Tahini 2. The new system is able to do almost 3 times more operations per second. So this got me thinking. There are a fair few people out there that aren't in relationships and obviously have to look towards other means to satisfy themselves. With a supercomputer like this, I'm just wondering whether or not it could prove to be a little less helpful in the long run, if you get what I'm alluding to, Bill. They're going to look up tons of porn with a really fast computer.
I didn't know where you were going.
Or a
I
good
don't
thing?
think let's be honest here.
fall in
We're
love
all
with the
three
computer.
guys sitting in a room. Like,
That's right.
you can
I'm looking
watch
at it now.
porn now, and it's at a reasonable speed.
Mate,
Like, I
I'll
have
watch
no
porn.
issues.
I'll watch porn at fucking three pixels.
Yeah.
I'll watch all.
I remember the very first.
Ooh,
You know
look at
what?
that beige colour.
I remember that this is the funniest. This is a great segue. A great little tangent. I remember at high school, like the first one of all of our mates that got a color picture phone.
Yeah.
And there was this one website that you could look at like phone porn on like these old fucking, I don't even know what phone it was. And we used to take turns borrowing this fucking phone. And I got the phone for the next couple of nights. Fuck yeah, mum, dad, lock the door. I'm out. But it was that good, and it was this pixelated, like wasn't even moving.
I'm double working.
Like, oh, you got that phone again this week.
That's
Come on.
so good.
But yeah, and I was like, oh man, I remember that back in the day. And you made it work.
Yeah. So that was your
So I don't think
first
it
ever-
matters at all.
Hey,
I
what
don't think
was
this
the-
is going to change.
This is
If
gonna
you're
be
already
better.
if you're already watching a shit ton of porn, you're already going to watch a shit ton of porn.
I was about to go to a segue of what was your first experience like masturbating, but I think we should fucking try.
Yeah, I mean, look,
should
we're
we try
trying
and
to
get
get some
back on
topics on this conversation. I'm a very open person. We're not going to speak about that.
Yeah, that's right. I'm open, but I'm not physically that open.
Yeah.
Let's get back on track.
Sounds
That's
good.
it, eh? That's it for the good, the bad,
That
and the
is
science.
the GBS, my friend. Enjoy.
Yeah, it's good.
Excellent.
Interesting.
Variance.
What a
Yeah,
variance.
just- okay, we
CrossFit
went
is all
from-
about variance.
So, Karen, how do you make a living as a CrossFit athlete? And a lot of the guys, and you can use examples of friends of yours, guys that are treating it like a professional athlete. You know, how do you make ends meet? It's a lot of work. The workload is very large, taking up a large portion of your time. You know, how do you make ends meet? You've got the gym, you've got sponsors.
I actually masturbate to pixelated porn while creepy gentlemen watch
And
me.
you actually get paid for
Yeah,
that.
they pay me. Creepy gentlemen pay me to play.
Oh,
No.
right.
Can't, it's 4 p.m.
No, I actually, so I think we kind of alluded to this earlier on. I have an online coaching program, which is where I make some of my income from. I work with people all over the world. It's awesome. Programming is probably the part of CrossFit and just functional fitness in general that I love the most. It's like putting together a piece of a puzzle. And I was sort of saying in my own training, I feel like I've found this kind of formula that works. There's like 3 things that you can train and you can always sort of work one or the other. And it's kind of a hierarchy of how I would train those 3 things. You know, it starts with skill acquisition and blah, 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 blah. And this whole kind of systemized approach that I've developed, which is now replicable through programming for other people. And like, I love that. I love doing that. And I guess that's where like doing things like seminars and stuff, when I talk about that in the future, is something that I'm going to hopefully do. But so that makes some money. I'm also, very lucky that I do have a good following on social media. I have an agent. She's phenomenal. She actually works predominantly, she doesn't work with any other CrossFitters, put it that way. She works predominantly in like mainstream media and stuff like that. And I do like work with brands, do campaigns and stuff. I shot a campaign for Microsoft recently they've got these like activewear bands and stuff like that. So I don't really know what you would call that, but that's kind of where most of my money comes from. Like, and whether it's stuff that I share or I just shoot a campaign for them. So for instance, Far Cry, the game, I shot that campaign for Ubisoft. It was worth a decent chunk of money, and it involves, shooting a thing for them, and they put it in X magazine, Y magazine. They did it in, newspapers and stuff like that. So that's kind of, I guess, those 2 sort of different avenues are my main sources of income. But that said, and I think I put up a post with the Microsoft thing, I'm actually because I do understand that there is such a huge degree of bullshit out there in social media, I won't work with brands in a purely kind of promotional sense that I don't genuinely use. You guys can see I have my PlayStation right there and my games. I play PlayStation. My band's just there, the Microsoft one, and I've been using that like for pretty much 90% of my workouts that are just endurance based. I've had plenty of companies approach me. One that wanted me to, post about drinking this shit tea. Or I don't know if it's shit's probably good, but I don't drink tea, and I'm not going to drink this fucking tea that makes me do whatever, help me burn fat and whatever like that. Fuck, like that's not me at all. Like
you don't screw your followers over by
that's right.
promoting stuff that you don't actually use
and if
yourself.
I did, I'd say like, this is a, and I'm pretty, fuck, people aren't idiots. I mean, nothing shits me more than when you look at someone on social media and they're blatantly plugging something and treating their followers like idiots. Like, as if you don't know that I'm being paid to do this, and I probably don't actually fucking give a shit about whatever. But yeah, that, and then I just odd thing, like things just pop up here and there, like seminars, workshops. I might, go and do a talk somewhere. Fuck, I went and did a talk at the Australian Defence Force Academy a few weeks ago. At there, like had one of the squadrons down there had a this formal dining thing, and that was an experience. I'd never eaten so properly in my life. I had to be like instructed on how I was meant to eat and all these things. Yeah. I'm just sitting, fuck. But I mean, that was cool. Like you see the plaques just there, like that was cool. I got to stand up, and it was actually mostly talking about things like, the mental health and raising awareness and stuff like that. But
did you get a taste of what it was like in the Australian Defence Force? If it's spoken about much, mental health?
Yes and no. I think that's why they had me down there. So it's obviously something they're trying to raise more awareness of. But it was a really interesting experience. These guys and girls were at the academy. They're sort of 18, 19-year-old kids and you could just kind of look around the room and you could see them kind of all smirking to each other and stuff like that. And you can just see that particularly with that age group, they don't have that life experience. They've probably never experienced it close to home that much yet. It's something that generally manifests itself in the early to mid-20s, particularly in men. And yeah, like it's this hyper-masculine sort of culture. But the residing sentiment at the end of it was that people did appreciate that conversation being talked about, particularly their older members and the members of staff. Definitely. I think it's definitely something that's being, they wouldn't have had me there if it wasn't something. And I know the guy that they'd had that morning was an Olympian, an openly gay Olympian. And so they're doing things to try and raise awareness of that as well. Like I'm also a huge ambassador, campaigner for equality of, like marriage equality and equal rights and getting rid of the stigma around like homophobia and stuff like that. I think, there's nothing shit. Like I think homophobia is one of the stupidest concepts. Morgan Freeman, your man, said it perfectly. There's no such thing as homophobia. You're just an asshole. I'm fucking afraid of two people that are genuinely in love if they are two men or two women. It's such a fucking
don't you think
redundant concept
purely because it's not the majority.
Yeah, these things are becoming more openly accepted in these bigger, obviously, as I said, like hyper-masculine sort of institutions.
One of my mates knocked it on the head really well the other day. One of my best mates, Matt Roy, he said that we were talking about gay marriage and the fact that fucking Australia's leaders are fucking still opposed to it to some degree. Yeah. And he said, Royce said to me, he goes, don't you think this is one of those stages in life where in 25 years' time, you're going to look back, or 30 years' time, whatever, and you're going to go, what the fuck was everybody thinking? It's the exact same as
25 years ago, you could sell a black dude to another dude to work on your farm.
No shit.
And how the fuck is that even justifiable now?
It's the exact same.
Isn't it? We're having this talk on a slightly different tangent about technology today. But I mean, things progress so fast. He was just saying how Siri today is like a piece of shit. But in 25 years, I'm just so excited. 25 years, Siri's going to be like, hey, do you want me to cook scrambled eggs for you? And, all this sort of thing.
Well, how funny. I'm a huge fan of Joe Rogan's. And I actually just listened to his podcast with
Sam Harris.
Boom.
Yeah, and they were talking about Sam Harris's was good. But I was listening to one, who was he talking to? I actually got his book. I just bought a book of the guy.
Is this about the AI?
When he's talking about that. So it was... The book is called Sex at Dawn with Christopher Ryan.
Christopher Ryan is the man.
Oh, bro. And you should hear them talking about like these AI sex robots and stuff. It's fucking hilarious. This book is fascinating though. I mean, I've got that on my... and this is a great book that kind of talks about modern sexuality.
Ready to go.
Yeah,
I wonder in 25 years' time we'll be talking about...
Well, you'll be asking Siri to come in wearing that favourite set of bra and undies that she's got. And,
Siri, put the Jabba the Hutt costume on, please.
You'll be able to live out all these weird and sort of awkward fantasies when you come in.
Siri, put Jabba the Hutt on. Virtual reality is going to be the weirdest one.
Yeah.
Virtual reality is nearly here. Virtual reality, Brazzers is already working on virtual reality porn.
Going back to porn. When we're going back to porn and we're going back to... We've got our high-speed internet. We've got Brazzers virtual reality.
We've hit tangents 1, 2 and 3.
Shut the front gate. You have just won so many more listeners access to this podcast? They're just like, fuck yes. Tell us more.
We've won all our demographic.
Yeah.
We were talking about this the other day. We need to work out our demographic. It's us.
that's
Well,
right.
you've just niched yourself perfectly.
100%.
Fat guys sitting at their computer, sweating with these creepy
Stonewood.
grins.
All right, so finances. This is what we were talking about.
Yes.
So for CrossFitters, people out there in the fitness industry trying to survive when they're training so much and so forth, what advice do you have? Because you do it pretty well. What advice do you have to make a brand of yourself?
I think don't force it. Like one of the big things that I learned before I even started, people respond to authenticity because we don't go on social media to be advertised to. If you are your authentic self and you show people things, there's posts that I put up there where I talk about, not having a good day and stuff like that. I talk about being passionate about things, talk about feeling like shit. The more real you can be as a person, the more people are going to relate to you. And the more you can say, like, give to people of yourself, the easier it's going to be for you to become, I guess, a brand. The other thing is, like, I don't think I necessarily set out to become a brand. I just figured that if I was going to broadcast myself to the world through social media, which is what we all do to an extent, make sure you're saying something of value. Like, if what you're saying has no value, then why the fuck does anyone want to listen to it? Like, if you can't give value in what you've got to tell to people, and whether that value is something as simple as someone might have a smile and a laugh because you're there in your Speedos and carrying on like a pork chop, or whether that person can sit there and go, like, I've put up posts before about things to do with mental health or like nothing good. And some of the messages, and this is by far the most rewarding part of being an athlete, some of the things that people have then shared with me, like private messaged me and stuff like that beforehand, has genuinely brought me to tears because there are people going through shit all over the world, just like you, just like me, just like anyone else. And we have this incredible vehicle to communicate with those people. And when you use your social, like things like that, to have those conversations and communicate with people in an authentic and genuine way that's designed to add value to their lives in whatever way, then people will respond to that. If all you do is they're going, come into my gym and I'll give you 2 PT sessions for the price of 1, or something like that, you're just going to look like people get over that pretty quick, smart, and people start to switch off. They're not engaged.
Definitely.
For sure. So what about what's next for you, Khan? Like, you're building this brand that we spoke before, how you want to be able to program for people. You want to build your online programming up so that you can travel a little more. Like, what have you got left in CrossFit?
Is this your last year?
I said at the start of the year I was going through a bit of a particularly bit of a lull, I guess mentally and physically. I was banged up still, nursing these injuries, and just felt like I was never going to get back to where I was. And, I was just sick of trying. And like, as I said, I was just overtraining. And I guess now that I'm enjoying training again, I'm just going to train. That's just how I'm going to train from now on. If the open rolls round and I do the open and I come 6th and I can go to regionals and I've had a blast in the lead up to it and I haven't changed that enjoyment factor, fuck, I may as well go. Like, even if I can, but then it's going to be going there to have a blast at regionals, not being like, okay, I have to go and I have to make the CrossFit Games, and I come 6th. If I come 6th by 1 point, just miss out on going, well, cool. I've had 12 months of training when I feel like training, doing what I feel like doing, traveling as much as I can, getting my, putting my finger in the pie with these different business ventures and stuff like that, talking to people, meeting people, expanding my horizons as a human being. And if through all of that I'm still able to compete, then of course I'll still compete. I love it. It's like I said, it's a privilege to be out there, getting to do something, getting to represent your country and yourself on the global scale. And like, I have but I just guess my shift in focus is from a purely mental perspective. I'm not going to base my next 12 months around trying to compete. Yeah, my next 12 months is not going to be based around trying to compete at the CrossFit Games.
Yep.
Put it that way. If I go back to the CrossFit Games, happy days.
Yep.
I'm still going to train hard. I love it. There's like I said, there's days where if I feel good, I'll train 4 times that day, and I'll have an awesome day, and then afterwards I'll feel great. But there's other times where if I don't feel great, I'm not going to be like, oh fuck, Khan, you've got to go and going to the gym, going through it. Your knees are hurting, but you've got to do squats because you have to have strong legs or you're fucked.
Do you know, that just made me think of something. I'm reading a book about mindfulness right now. And one of the biggest things it's actually Bill's book that I've just taken. And one of the biggest things they talk about is just habit releasing. So we're all in these sort of subconscious habits that we don't even know we do. And the biggest thing that I've found by just, I sort of got into it a couple of years ago, but little things like, I may sit over there on a chair and, just say, I'm just going to sit on this side. And it just helps with, so I used to have that big thing as well. It's like, oh, fuck, I didn't train exactly the way the program's written today. I'm like freaking out now and I didn't hit that number or whatever. But all these things now, it's just sort of helping with like, oh, who cares? It doesn't matter. I feel so much better for it.
Nothing's ever the end of the world.
It's never the end of the world. And just doing those little habit releases,
It's a pretty kind of, like, again, I was listening to Joe Rogan's podcast, his recent one with Russell Brand, and I mean, I'm a huge fan of both Joe and Russell. So it's awesome. And they were talking about like there's this big stint on happiness and how happiness is basically like, doing what makes you happy is intrinsic to you. And it comes from doing like that habit release. If you go, I don't want to do this because it makes me feel unhappy, it makes me feel like shitty, like then don't do it. However, like that's all well and good. But then there are times and then the thing is as well, and I talk about this in my seminars, half of it is kind of on mindset and stuff. There's always going to be situations in life that arise that make you feel uncomfortable and unhappy. But you just have to kind of accept that. And I think there's so much that goes into being a top level CrossFit athlete that means you have to accept that. If you can't walk into the gym and think about like the shittest you've ever felt after a workout, if you can't walk into the gym and make yourself feel that way every now and again on your own, of your own volition, and just be like completely at peace with that, then like you're never going to make it.
That's
really.
right. You're never going to move
That's what separates
forward.
the good from the great. I don't think I'm necessarily the most athletically gifted guy in CrossFit, in any sport, but particularly in CrossFit. There are so many athletes out there, I think, that are on paper better athletes than me. But I am so at peace with being uncomfortable because of all the different issues I've had mentally that have put me in these like constant states of discomfort for great periods of time, physical and just purely mental and emotional. That sometimes it's actually kind of just nice when you just feel so shitty doing a workout. That's all you're really thinking about. Like, I'm in so much pain right now. I'm so out of breath. I'm just going to keep going though. There's this kind of blissful, almost zen-like quality to that feeling of just complete chaos physically. that if you can make peace with that and furthermore put yourself in that situation, I'm not saying do it every day because it sucks, but just be able to do that. Like that's a huge thing as well that goes for, like going training. And I'll continue to do that because like I said, sometimes that's just nice.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
I think there's
cool.
a lot of, I think CrossFit, number one, but sport in a general sense is a great application, like you said, to that for life because life will give you that shit all the time. It's kind of like, oh fuck, I've just got to cop this, and I'm going to become a better person for it.
So,
does weightlifting give you that, Bill?
Yeah. I mean, I actually had the similar experience where obviously you don't go through long periods of grinding pain when you're a weightlifter, but I had an example last week. I think I had a 3-week period where I just really was struggling. Mentally, didn't want to step foot through the door.
Yep.
When I was in the gym, couldn't be fucked with my next set, so on and so forth. And my mate, Dan, came up to me and he's like, hey, man, how you going? He's one of my real close mates in the gym. And I said, I don't want to be here, man. I don't want to be here. And he was like, good. And I went, yeah, it's good. I'm here.
Yeah.
It's cool. And I got the session started and then I didn't miss a training session, which was cool. I was in there, I was doing the work. If I wanted to rest, then I really would have, but I got through it. And then I came and trained on Monday, and it was like a ton of bricks had been lifted off me. My body felt great. I was moving perfectly. I was like, wow, this is, I think if you push through that pain, you'll always get to the good stuff.
100%.
And yeah, I mean, yeah, it's all part of it. You've got to go through the shit to get to the good. But, so, Khan, do you have that kind of same mindset with your training, and are you flexible with your diet and stuff? How do you work that? I mean, you take it pretty seriously. Like, what do you eat?
Nah, man, I just kind of eat what I want to. Like, it's improved to an extent. Like, I think the less limitations I place on myself, the more I gravitate towards eating better anyway.
Yeah.
Because I just feel better. Like, if I'm there and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to eat any grain, and I'm not going to eat any sugar, and I'm not going to eat any this, and this. I go like 2 days. I'm like, this is fucked. I'm just gonna go eat burgers and shit. But if
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, tonight I feel like a pizza, I will go and have that. And I don't even have that thought process anymore.
Yeah.
because I'm so
Yeah,
strict
sure.
with my diet. If I want to eat whatever I want to eat, right? I'll have a beer and then go and do a session this afternoon. That's fine. I'll go. I just eat what I want, and I think that therefore, because I have that flexible and chilled approach, I make decent choices anyway when it comes to food.
I'm sure you eat pretty well by and large anyway, I would say, without having to think about too much. I mean, you can't, tell me if I'm wrong, but you can't train at a real high level without eating a good amount of protein, a good amount of carbs, and a good amount of fat. You know what I mean?
I definitely indulge probably more than your average CrossFitter.
Yeah.
Like, I'll drink,
I can see that, mate.
multiple times.
Yeah.
Drinking beers.
Just for everyone at home,
in the
Carl's on his 17th beer right now.
And holding it together
He's
well.
holding it very well. Yeah.
But yeah, like I drink that. I've got corn chips over there that I'll probably snack on all afternoon. I fucking love Mission corn chips. There's another brand that does not sponsor me in any way, shape, or form.
Hashtag
but
Mission
really
corn chips.
really should get around me. Them and Stone and Wood. Come on, guys. I don't even know if Mission exists in Australia. If it's an Australian company. I know Stone and Wood is, so I know you're listening.
Come on, Simonwood.
But yeah,
Help us help you.
Yeah, exactly right. It just will help me get drunk.
Yeah.
Eat it all. But I love food, and I love, I've effectively lived this kind of bachelor lifestyle for a few years now, where I basically eat out every meal. I don't really like cooking, so I know that my dinner every night is going to be at a restaurant or a cafe or something or takeaway.
Fuck, that's sick.
That's sick.
Yeah.
I wish I had the cash to do that.
Yeah.
100% I'd do it every day, but I can't.
Yeah, well, you start to learn to make better choices. I'm actually this is kind of the first time in my life, I mean, since maybe like last year, it kind of start of last year, I've actually had money to do. Like, I don't have to, the games has been a big expense. Like, this year's games has been a decent expense. But by and large, throughout the majority of the year, I actually am able to just go and like eat where I want to eat and stuff like that. And it's actually a really lovely change in, going from scraping by on $500 a week and eating tuna and rice multiple times a week. But yeah, also what I had for dinner last night. I went and had Greek food for dinner last night. So,
very good.
like
Do you want
pita
to give a shout out
bread.
to the restaurant?
Oh, they're actually a good restaurant.
Free
as well.
meal next week.
Yeah. Hashtag Greek food.
We're hashtagging the shit out of
Greek
stuff here.
food.
You're going to get something in the mail, I reckon. You're going to get, you've hashtagged enough stuff.
Yeah.
But it's fuck, I better. Here we go. Stone and Wood's my main one. We'll just keep harping on about them. Stone and Wood. But yeah, no, I don't know.
Stone
Like,
or
I
wood.
think, and I like the ritual of going to these little rituals and stuff like that as well. A nice little checkouts for me. Like the ritual of going to a cafe for breakfast and having a coffee, and I'm sitting down and I'm centered in like one piece, like I'm not running around all over the place, and that kind of little ritual, and that's where it all started. Was just I'd go out for breakfast every day, and then I was like, all right, well, I'm not cooking dinner because I was getting home late. So these little rituals that we build, and whether it's like even now if I go out to dinner like with my chick, and like it's just like we even spoke about that. We went to dinner the other night. And she was like saying, it was something about, eating at home or, like when I don't know how the conversation came up. But so it's actually kind of nice. We go out to dinner every night because I don't cook, because it forces us to sit at a table and converse, like have a conversation,
Absolutely.
actually get to know people. Like
Rather than sit in front of the television.
Yeah,
like on your own couch.
Dumb down.
Yeah.
But like, those little rituals. The other one is going to the movies. I go to the movies like once, if not twice a week.
I fucking
On
love
my
the movies,
own.
man.
It's that good.
What have you seen lately that's good?
Seen The Conjuring 2?
Yeah, seen The Conjuring 2.
What do you think?
I thought it was good.
Yeah.
It was obviously I didn't think it was like
Super
gut-wrenchingly scary,
No, no.
but I love scary movies. So I went and saw that with a few friends, and I saw that. The Hunt for the Wilder People, that was brilliant.
Yeah, I heard
Brilliant
that's
film.
good.
What else have I seen recently?
You seen Dory?
No, I haven't seen Dory. I
I
saw
booked in this week with my missus. She's been bugging the shit out of me. I haven't gone yet. We're not actually booked in, but
guarantee it's going to be shitter than Nemo.
Yeah, someone told
Nemo
me
was
I've heard
fucking
that.
good. But
I've
it's
heard
like
shit.
Yeah, I've heard it's real
It's
shit.
like with the Toy Stories and stuff, or like Anchorman and fucking whatever. If the first is a 10 out of 10, then even if the second's like a 6, you're going to fucking enjoy it.
Oh, yeah.
I was like Anchorman 2 for me. I'm like, that movie was fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
It wasn't that funny,
Yeah.
but it was fucking good to see the boys on screen.
Yes, that's
right,
true.
Like catching up
Just
with
get
old mates,
Brick back
you know?
in, Brick's back in action. I was like, oh, he's
Yeah.
Entourage is a good example.
Entourage. Oh,
That
do you know,
movie
a
fucking
good example of a sequel that's like way better than the original is The Godfather. You guys seen
I
The
wouldn't
Godfather?
say way better.
Oh, mate.
It's a fucking good
it's
movie.
good.
But
I was around it.
the first movie is pretty much top
Best
3
movie
movies of all time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 2 is
I haven't
sick,
even
though.
seen it, so.
The flashbacks, the flashbacks in number 2, that's what make it.
Yeah, that's right.
With Robert Downey Jr., Robert De Niro.
There's a few movies
Robert
like
Downey
that,
Jr.
but they're
dressed as
few
Robert
and
De
far
Niro.
between where the sequel's better than the first.
Yeah.
Usually it's like ones with heaps of CGI where the technology gets better and you're like, oh, it looks realer
sick.
now. This is sick. But
Tell you what I went to the other day, which was rad, was the Jurassic Park exhibition in Melbourne Museum.
I heard it was terrible.
No, it's
one of my
sick.
good mates, Ricky,
It's
went down
sick,
there. He
mate.
fucking loves Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
I could
Mate,
read you the text. He
I
was
fucking-
so pissed.
I was all over it. It was about, the only problem was it was like
Where was it?
3 Melbourne Museum, like the Museum in Melbourne, whatever it's called.
right, okay.
There was like 3 rooms
had a
about the
museum.
size of this room here, which had the actual dinosaurs. And there was like 3 dinosaurs.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, oh, I can't wait to see what's next. And then you're out and it's finished.
Was the
So
music
that
there?
was a major bummer. But fuck,
That's
man.
what I think he was all about, was it was
Yeah.
just very small.
But it was sick. Like my missus, you know, when you go in and you're like in a museum and they have whatever the exhibition is, and they have a little stand that'll have the write up about something. They'll have something on the wall, whatever. My missus is kind of dragging me through these rooms at a good pace, at a reasonable pace, and I'm staying. I haven't finished reading. I've got a few lines to go. Like I took it all in.
Yeah.
Was
It
the music
rad.
on?
Oh,
music.
that would have been so good. That's
3, 2, 1, go.
just makes-
21,
that makes the
59.
experience- That makes the experience. That music is unbelievable.
Oh,
No,
best
it was
music of all time.
it was pretty sick. But anyway, so you got any riddles for us, Tommy? Anything good
I
today?
reckon I've got a riddle. What have I got? Here we go. Oh, yeah? Shit. Okay, this is all right. See how you go. Mary's father has 5 daughters. Nana, Nene, Nini, Nono, and what is the 5th daughter's name?
What are the first 4?
Okay, so Mary's father has 5 daughters. Nana, Nene, Nini, Nono, and what is the 5th name?
Mary.
Nana, Nene.
Mary.
Yeah,
Yes. I'm less concerned about that. I just want to know what those names were again.
Nana, Nini, Nini, Nono.
This is obviously a made-up story as well, Karen, just so you know.
yeah. Hashtag Nini. Hashtag Nini.
Nene and Nono looking to sponsor nothing.
Sponsored by
Yeah,
Nana.
that's right. All right. Well, I should have some other
Yeah,
ones
that
here.
was a very simple riddle.
Shocker, wasn't it? All right. Oh, this is one that stumped you. See, are you a riddle man at all, Carl?
I love riddles, but I'm not great at them.
Okay.
My best mate, shout out to my best mate, he now lives in New York.
Hashtag best mate.
Hashtag Byron Craft. He, one time, we were at shopping centre together because that's what best mates do. And he like fucking ran off. I went in the bathroom and he disappeared and just kept telling me riddles to try and find him. And I get like these periods of time. He'd tell me this riddle and I'd be like, fuck, where is he? And I'd try and find him and I couldn't find. Oh, it's that good. But then, and all
I
ended
got
up being.
work at 4. Can you stop?
Well, it ended up being like he was sitting in his car for like the last 4 riddles and he's like, I just wanted to fuck with you and make you different places. But so I'm not good at riddles.
All right,
but
well,
I like them.
all right. Who makes it has no need of it. Who buys it has no use for it. Who uses it can neither see nor feel it. What is it?
Oh, so I kind of need to see this in front of my face to
Yeah,
look
it's
at because
tough.
you
All right.
said that and I don't remember.
Have a read of this one. So, who makes it has no need of it. Who buys it has no use for it. Who uses it can neither see nor feel it. What is it? I read this one out recently, didn't I?
Yeah.
Did you get it?
No, I don't think I did.
Yeah. It's bloody
And I
tough.
don't actually remember what it is.
Should we...
No, so I got fucking no idea.
Yeah, it's a coffin. How good?
That's right.
How good?
That is good. See, I would go like, see, for me, I'm going like deep spiritual, like
Yeah.
something like virtue. But
Everyone always goes, God, who buys it has no need of it. You're right, though. I think I'm all done with the riddles.
Should we hit 6 for 6 up?
Yeah, I think we should.
So, Karen, we normally finish up with 6 questions, 3 from me, 3 from Tommy. Mine are pretty travel related, and feel free to go off on any tangents because I know you said you're a very, very passionate man about traveling, as am I, as is Tommy. So, my first question, which is pretty broad. So, your favourite destination you've ever been at can be a small town, can be a city, can be a country, can be anywhere.
I love New York City. I'd say New York's kind of like my home away from home. Both my coach is based over there and my best mate, the one we just talked about, shout out again to the best mate, lives over there now. So I've spent like a lot of time there. I really love New York. Like I just really love the city.
Yep.
But also I've been through Central America and I really enjoyed that as well. But I guess New York. I'm just a huge fan of New York City.
Where's your? I've been through Central and South America a couple of times. Where have you been in Central America? Sorry, where's
in
your
parts of Mexico, then Guatemala and Belize.
sick? Did you get to Key Corker in Belize?
Yep.
How good is that joint?
So good.
We actually got to Key Corker in Belize. It was the strangest happening. So we went to Isla Mujeres in Mexico.
Yeah.
And sick little island. And this is like my third day backpacking. And I just was drunk, playing pool with a couple of guys, and ended up being a German guy and a German girl. And this crazy Canadian dude came up to us and asked if we wanted to sail with him to Belize the next day. And we were drunk.
Fucking great.
Yeah, we were drunk as fuck. We're like, yeah, man, we'll go with you.
Yeah.
This sounds like a great adventure. Anyway.
Sounds like the start of like some sort of Mexican version of the beach where you like met this German couple.
Well, this is nearly what happened,
fell in
man.
love with the
This is
German
nearly
girl.
what happened. So the guy rocks up the next day, and I was in my hammock. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? He looks really familiar. Anyway, long story short, he's come up. Hey, you guys still want to sail with us today? I'm like, fuck. Anyway, the other two were in, whatever. We sailed from Mexico to Belize, and during the sailing trip, there's about fucking 10 stories that I'm telling in one story right now. But have I told this on the podcast before?
No, not on the podcast before. You told me that.
Yeah. So what happened was I ended up taking the reins of this catamaran and sailing through the Caribbean Sea for fucking like 12 hours through a storm. Got it from 2 knots an hour to 18 knots an hour. Nearly had to bring the mast down, like bombing along the Caribbean Sea. And when we got to Key Corker, we landed, we docked and we got off the boat, and we were going to meet Guy in the sports bar for a beer in like a couple hours' time. We got off the wharf. We got our Lonely Planet open. We're trying to find somewhere to stay. And there's an American guy at the end of the wharf, and he goes, he basically said, hey guys, you want to buy all your food and water tonight for the next couple of days because all the shops are going to be closed. And I looked at him and I said, what the fuck are you talking about, man? He goes, you don't know? Hurricane Matthew's coming up the Caribbean coast. So we had to batten down the hatches there was no one there in Key Corker. So we bought first things first, we bought about 5 bottles of rum. Second thing, we bought a few bags of Coke, and then we locked ourselves in our hostel room. We found 3 other travellers, so there was 6 of us. And we had like a 3-day lock-in party while this fucking torrential storm thundered down. And all we did was just sung arm in arm like Red Hot Chili Peppers for hours on end. And it was and when you woke up, there were dinosaurs. It was rad.
This is my dream come true.
Yeah, so Key Corker's sick. But so my next travel question is your favourite, your dream destination. So it can be anywhere again.
I've never been to Europe. So Europe, really, really, really want to go. And it's hard with the travel schedule that CrossFit kind of, this huge chunk of my year every year goes to being in the States, I love the States, as I said. But yeah, I really want to get to Europe. Really want to get to Europe.
Anywhere in particular?
All of it.
Yeah.
Oh man, like Spain. It's all of it, man. Like
cool.
Seriously, I want to do like all the like those kind of that textbook. I want to go and see the Eiffel Tower and be in France and Paris and Spain.
Paris is lame,
but
man.
I also want to do like Scandinavia, and then I want to do just like
Iceland.
Spain's worth
Eastern
that.
Europe as well.
Spain, 100%.
Yeah, I've heard
Prague's
such a sick thing about Spain,
Yeah.
and I think that just like it would be my type of city to visit.
Yeah, 100%. So next question is, if you were stuck on a desert island, you've got 3 things to keep you sane. So you've got food and water and a toothbrush and all that shit.
Well, so he's in this exactly. You see, it was rum, Coke, and some other travel.
We know what he likes.
That's right. Happy days.
I mean, it's not a bad time on an island. Let's be honest here.
Well, that can be your answer if you like.
No, it's okay. I think I'll go something to pen my thoughts.
Yep.
So whether that's like, I hope it's not pen and paper, something to type my thoughts out on.
Yeah.
But doesn't have to be functioning in any other way, shape, or form.
Yep.
A member of the opposite sex. And pardon?
Human or?
Well, preferably.
Good.
Depends how long I'm
try
stuck on the
anything
island
once.
for. Yeah, but no. And something to take pictures with. I really like taking photos.
Yeah,
Something
cool.
to take pictures with, something to write on, and a chick.
Cool.
Easy.
That's a good combo.
Alrighty. Did you have a role model growing up?
Yeah, to be completely cliche, my dad probably. Like I idolized my dad in a lot of ways. He was just, when you're a kid and you just think your dad's just the best at everything. Like he played all these sports and all this sort of stuff, and he just had this really kind of positive and deep. My parents, I'm very blessed that both my parents are very creative people and very kind of like loved me and my brothers a lot, and were very open with that. We had a very kind of like, you were encouraged to speak about your feelings and all this sort of stuff. And so I think that it's shaped me to a huge extent today, is having like my father, who I did see as this kind of like, figure of masculinity, was also like in touch, we were brought up to if for birthdays and stuff like that, it was just as good to write mum and dad a poem or something like that as it was to buy them a present. So we had this beautiful relationship with both my parents. I guess you can call both my parents my role models. I had this beautiful relationship with both my parents that's really, I think, particularly through some of the difficult times that I've been through mentally and stuff like that, has really given me beautiful perspective on the world and like a beautiful kind of outlook on a lot of different things and just incredibly caring and compassionate people that, I aspire to, if I can be as good a parent to my kids as they were to me, I think I'll have done, a brilliant job in life. So
excellent.
It sounds cliche, but I guess both my parents.
Well, it's not cliche. We get, I reckon, 1 in 3.
Yeah,
people.
probably more so.
Probably more so.
Probably more so. That's probably because we interview successful, good people, right. with a good head on their shoulders, and that's normally comes from the top,
Yeah,
so
definitely. Completely.
Okay. Favorite thing to do when you got some downtime? What do you like to do?
It's going to be the same again.
Yeah.
It's going to be cocaine, rum,
Coke and chicks.
All right.
That doesn't include the 3 aforementioned.
So your fourth favourite thing to do, basically.
I don't do it as much anymore. I do like to write when I feel good. I like to read. As I said, there's sort of 3 things I've been trying to add back into my daily ritual to, I guess, keep that mental enrichment going, and that's reading, listening to podcasts, and writing. And it can be something as simple as like a haiku, or like sometimes it's honestly I'll just be driving and I'll have this like beautiful phrase will come into my head and I'm like, fuck, I have to write that down because that's a really cool. And it can be to do with nothing. It can be to do with like someone, like some of them are just so abstract, or it can be like, often there's a kind of prevailing sort of sensual nature to a lot of these things. And that can just be this beautiful phrase that describes some sort of incredible sensual encounter. And I just have to write it down. And that's, something that I kind of love to do in my spare time. But also, I don't know, like I love just chilling, like movies, I guess. It'd be like something really kind of basic.
Yeah,
chill,
for sure.
Definitely.
Normal. I love going to the movies.
Excellent. Alrighty. And the final one is, if you could invite 3 people to dinner, dead or alive, who would they be and why? And your family's already there. All your close people are already there.
I was going to say, because like there's like one of my mates that I kind of thought about this question.
Yeah.
It's like I'll get like 2 really like the president and someone, or like and then I'd get one of my buddies particularly to just be like there and just listen to what he had to ask them.
Yeah.
That's a really hard question.
It is tough.
I think like you could go down the path of invite 3 supermodels and just have a beautiful dinner to observe. But
that would be a good dinner.
That would be a good dinner. Let's not lie. But at the same time,
A dinner filled with cocaine and rum.
and that's all that's served on plates as well.
Hashtag
rum and cocaine. That music. This is the greatest. What are we doing with our lives? Let's get 3 supermodels on the blower, some rum, some coke, and then play the Jurassic Park movie. What a great afternoon ahead
I feel
of
like
us.
you could hook that up. We couldn't hook that
I
up.
feel like all we talked about is cocaine,
Jurassic Park.
And Jurassic Park. An interesting combo. Let's imagine if the entire film, Jurassic Park, the guys were wired as on cocaine. That would make the movie.
and
it would be
imagine if the
terrible.
guys were all naked women.
Supermodels.
It's just the greatest film of all time. You don't have to find far to find. You don't have to look far in the eastern suburbs, particularly, to find supermodels and cocaine in the same place in Sydney. But 3 people, living or dead. I went down a couple of different avenues. There's people that I would love that are alive to sit down and have a conversation. I love Joe Rogan, Russell Brand, especially after just listening to that podcast. They'd be great to have to dinner. And then, maybe someone like even Sam Harris or like Graham Hancock, who's been...
I'm reading Graham Hancock's. I'm reading Supernatural.
You've dropped the name.
Phenomenal. That's like my goal after the games is find somewhere where I can go and do an ayahuasca journey.
Yes.
Am I allowed to say that on national?
Absolutely.
I'm going into this year.
Oh, you've got it. Fuck,
Yeah,
that's
it's
awesome.
sick,
in
man.
the bag.
I'm only just getting into
I
it.
have to take a photo and send this to my mate Ricky. He'll
I
be
think we speak about
frothing.
Graham Hancock every episode, don't we?
So to all the listeners that can't see what we're actually doing here, I've just pulled out a book called Supernatural, which is by Graham Hancock, and it's all about the state of consciousness and how it arose in mankind and stuff. I can't really go too far into it because I'm only up to
Give the brief description.
Well, basically, all I'm up to at the moment is studying the very, very ancient cave paintings, the first art that man came up with, and that was like 15,000 years ago in Europe, places of Europe and Africa. So that's basically where I'm up to at the moment,
So, like his unconventional theory is basically that the consciousness in humans came from eating psychedelic shrooms.
Yeah.
You know, for
I mean, have
DMT
you heard him
properties.
talk about like
Yeah, man.
religion?
Oh, yeah.
Me and Tommy are
it's
addicted to him, man.
mind-boggling.
We are
It's
addicted to him.
fucking
Yeah.
mental.
Who needs porn when you have Graham Hancock?
Yeah,
basically?
this is
I think
fuck
he's-
hookers, blow and rum, literally off.
Yeah.
And let's just get around Graham Hancock
I think
for a
he's
moment here.
your number one guest, and
100%.
my number one guest is Randall Carlson. Have you listened to the Randall Carlson and Graham Hancock
Joe
Joe Rogan?
Oh, started to it. I haven't gone all the way through
It's
that one.
the
So I want to go back
most
to the one of just Graham
mind-blowing
Hancock.
thing
It is
I've ever listened to. my
fucking
whole
amazing.
life.
Randall
Actually, do
Carlson's
you know who else is
above
awesome?
Graham Hancock for me.
I thought I'd probably invite if it was win those three, but I don't think they would be my three. It'd be like Louis Theroux. He's also interesting.
Yeah, Louis Theroux's
Yeah.
sick.
However, I think I'm going to go down the path of going like, I'm going to get the president of the United States. They have to answer all your questions, right?
Yeah, yeah.
President of the
Yep. Oh,
United
that's good.
States. That guy would know some shit.
Fuck yeah.
You want to
Yeah.
I want to pick his mind.
I agree.
Jesus Christ. Because
Yep.
apparently he was like a legitimate figure.
Yeah,
I want to be
yeah.
like,
He was
come
a
on, buddy.
legitimate dude.
I mean, I'm not a religious guy by any means, but come on, let's be honest here. Walked on the water. Did you do it? Tell me. You have to tell the truth. This is a truth-telling dinner party.
little bit of mayo on that one.
Come on. Or were they all on mushrooms? You drugged that water. You turned into wine.
That's right.
It's ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And you've got the. I'm onto you.
Jesus.
And then probably like, he's a figurehead of so many different religious things. The third person, maybe Buddha. And then I'd let them duke it out at the end of this kind of like, well, Buddha would probably not duke it out at all. He'd be interested. But just to think like, these are three incredibly influential people that have huge followings. And I guess Buddhism is probably the religion that I have the most interest in, which is hence why Buddha. Because I think that like that kind of Christianity, Catholicism, whatever is
fear-mongering, man.
It was, yeah. I have my own personal opinions on that. They are just that, but I'm still fascinated by the fact that it does captivate such a vast majority of the Western world.
Yeah.
So I would be really interested to sit down with Jesus and go, "Did you expect this to happen?"
Yeah.
we just kind of like.
You really blew up, man. You
Yeah.
went viral. You went
Dude,
viral
you're
before-
You're like one of those
before
guys
viral.
that got bigger when he died, though.
Stop
Like,
watching
kind of
Jurassic
sucks
Park.
for you, but
Help us out.
yeah, like you could probably. I mean, if you want hookers and
I'll help you out.
yeah,
Have you seen my social media following?
But he's like, them, and then the United States of America, because the president, because I'd be like, oh, fuck, you know things that we don't fucking know. I've
Area
seen
51.
Zeitgeist, I fucking know.
Yeah.
I've got theories.
You've seen Zeitgeist, haven't you?
Yeah, I've seen that, guys.
How good's that?
Oh, mate, yeah,
How
it's
good is that?
unbelievable.
Mind-blowing.
A few-
in the first
few
20
questions.
minutes.
Yeah,
Religion
you just sit
goes
there
bang,
going
bang, bang,
like,
bang, bang.
so that's what I get. That'd be my three. And
Excellent.
then as long as I can have my mates there as well to rib into them with questions too. And they've got to be okay with us taking the piss out of them. As
Yeah,
well.
that's right,
I gotta
yeah.
have a bit of a joke with the boys.
Yeah.
I love it, have a laugh.
They can take the piss out of me.
Dinner,
Fuck,
mate.
they can do whatever they want.
I
It's
know
gonna be
a
great.
lot about America.
I feel like Obama would be down. They'd be cool.
He'd be
Yeah,
cool.
Barmer would be a great dinner guest.
He'd be good, wouldn't he?
He's a good man. Is that all your questions? That's
That was
your
all my
three?
questions. I reckon
Cool.
we should ask Mr. Porter if there is anything you would like to plug, my friend.
No, I think we got all of them in there. Actually, yeah, no, I will give a shout out to my sponsors, Alpha Fit and Blue Dinosaur Bars, purely because I do genuinely like both those brands. They are Aussie boys, not just boys, but Aussie brands, and they've kind of backed me for quite some time now, and I do really love having, I think, particularly with having started to tap into the mainstream with some of my other like affiliations and endorsements and things like that. It's really cool to have these grassroots Aussie companies that I'm still on board with, and I do really appreciate the thing with them. I'm also with Nike as well. They're great too, but like I really, Nike's Nike. Fuck, they've got heaps
They don't
cooler-
even need your help.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they really don't need my help. They have heaps cooler people than me that work with them.
Thanks, Ken Potter.
Yeah, Ken Potter. Oh, Kenny Potter. Now there's a bloke you want to meet. Shout out to Kenny Potter as well. That's my alter ego when I'm having a good time.
Right.
Kenny Potter.
Kenny Potter's a
Kenny
good fella.
Potter.
Good fella to get
I'm
around.
going to meet him for a beer.
Oh fuck, one beer will turn into 26. But yeah, that's it. Nah, that's all
Excellent.
Good.
And where can they find you, Khan? So for
I'm probably not going to give out my address. I've had some interesting people contact me over the years.
Let's go your online address
I've got my website is www.iamcalmporter.com.
and your program, man.
Yeah,
Plug your
it's on
program.
the same website. It's all there. My Instagram is at @IamCalmPorter. I own CrossFit Play in Sydney. So you can check out www.crossfitplay.com.au as well, .com I think. And yeah, that's kind of the only places that I would appreciate random strangers looking for me, if that's okay.
Beautiful.
Cool.
Well, that was awesome, man. I reckon next time we get you on the show, we'll talk about unconventional science theories and shit.
Oh, can we? Can
delve
we get
down that.
someone that actually knows heaps more than us as well?
I know.
Let's get this guy on the show and this guy on the show.
Sit
Let's
there.
make that dinner table. Let's make
I'll
the
sit
dinner
there.
party.
Yeah.
We'll record it.
Dinner, we'll set
make
it up.
the dinner table.
Get them and then like a couple of our
Bring your
mates as
chips.
well.
But this guy and
We'll
this
bring
guy
the
again,
mission
the
chips.
listeners are hating it. This guy and this guy. That would be Graham Hancock and Christopher
But
Ryan.
by this point
for
in
the
time,
listeners.
Stone and Wood will be like well on board. They'll
They just
provide
want to-
alcoholic beverages for everyone for the evening. Hashtag Stone and Wood. No, that'd be awesome.
Blue Dinosaur Paleo Bars for all as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Alrighty. Sweet. Thanks, Khan. And that's a wrap.
Thanks, guys.
Alrighty, guys. If you liked that show, please subscribe. And if you're already a subscriber, please leave us a rating and review. Outside of leaving us a rating and review, if you have anything that you would like to get out of that show and go back on, you can check it all out at our show notes at www.adventurefittravel.com/radio. Also, don't forget to check out trueprotein.com.au. Use the code ADVF for 10% off. And adventurefittravel.com. Use the code radio for 10% off there also. See you next week.
Discovery Roger, go for deploy.